Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Vietnam.
I'd like to open up the Village Council Work Session meeting, September 25th, 2025. I show the time at 9:02. I show we have most of our council here except for Bob Markleese and Andy Wortman, which I understand will not be attending, but we do have a quorum. That said, I'd like to, no one's going to be participating remotely at this point, so we'll change that if that changes. First go into the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes need to be addressed?
Yes. On consent agenda, we need to add, consider adoption of resolution exempting the update to the Parks and Greenways Master Plan from public procurement requirements. And number 6, authorize the village manager to negotiate an agreement with Kimley Horn for the update to the Parks and Greenways Master Plan services. And under unfinished business, we need to add number 7, discussion and consideration of curb, gutter, and sidewalk inventory and repairs. And those are my only changes.
Anyone else? Okay, and I see that's been reflected in the agenda for me, so I'll need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, we got adoption of the previous minutes. We all have a chance to take a look at that. Do we have any?
I have no changes.
Nope.
No changes.
No changes? All right, that said, I'll need a motion to approve the previous minutes.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Feedback from previous public comment. Does anyone want to have anything to say from some of the things that were said in the last meeting? Hearing none, we're going to move on to going right into closed session.
So I'm going to make a motion to recess in a closed session pursuant to NCGS 143.318.11A4 to discuss economic development.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks. Opposed? None. Hearing none. Motion passes. Thank you.
Yeah, do we need anything?
We don't need any? Leave my stuff out here. Who's in charge?
Jill will steal it.
She'll go shopping.
Oh, I got to show you my watch that Andy bought me.
The new purchase.
I didn't get a watch.
Why is Andy buying you
Joe,
watches?
did you get a watch?
I didn't get a watch. I've been here the longest, too. All right, we are now back into the regular work, Village Council work session, and back on to, we don't have any presentations, I believe, or reports and updates. We're gonna jump over manager's report at this time, and maybe do that in a little bit. We're waiting on something, and we'll go right into clerk and communication.
Okay. Good morning, council. In your packet, you have the draft list of October communications. You know, take a look and let me know if you have anything you want to add. But for the most part, we're winding down the year with community survey promos, which I'll go over that in a few minutes. We're still advertising the candidate questionnaire, and we'll be sending out information regarding early voting. Coming down the line as far as events that we'll be advertising, we have the Friendship Tree, Trick or Treat in the park, the Arbor Day event. Our bulk drop-off is also in October, and we'll have the November car show. Other than that, it'll be your standard meetings, coffee with council, school closures. Just let me know if you want anything added to that list for the coming month.
Just one question, has anyone seen the surveys
So
hit
that's
mailboxes
that's my
yet?
next update.
Okay, sorry.
Is everybody going on the communication list? Okay. As far as the survey goes, we are a little behind schedule, we're about a week behind schedule right now. The vendor was having issues printing all the unique identifier codes. That has been resolved, and they have been given approval to get them into the mail. I'm just waiting on final confirmation that they've been placed into the mail, but I'm expecting that today. So hopefully by Monday, people will start getting them in their boxes. Once I do have confirmation that the survey postcards are in the mail, the banners will go up around town again, and we'll really start advertising, and that'll be open through Thanksgiving.
Austin, can I ask a question on the survey? Because I got this question from a resident. If I recall, when we provided the master address list to, you said, if I recall, we provided a master address list to Central Lina, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How does that work if, for example, some of the properties that just closed in the Heritage, is it still going to those lots
Yes.
or, okay?
All lots in Marvin are going to get a survey postcard. We made sure that even properties that will be closing in the next few weeks will still get a postcard. Even if a resident's brand new, they'll still have a chance to participate in the survey.
Okay.
I talked to several of the residents in Heritage and the sales office, and I'm gonna go give them some cards for they can call in if they're new, so they'll go in and they'll have it early.
Okay. I just wanted to double check because I actually got a call from a resident from the Heritage that saw the banners, had questions about it, but then I wasn't sure because I knew that.
But they will be in the mail, and all new residents should get a postcard. We will do a promotion probably about a quarter of the way through the survey period, saying if you've not got your postcard, please call this number, please email this email address, and they'll be given instructions on how to access the survey. We should be waiting on final confirmation if they're in the mail.
I just noticed in my mailbox that there were some of those smaller cards that we can hand out to residents as reminders and stuff like that. Is there a separate tranche of those or something so that as we have some of our events, like maybe the trick or treat or something like that, folks will be able to kind of hand out at those events?
By trick or treat, all the postcards will have gone out already. We can order more of those if y'all want to continue passing those out.
So everything was given to staff and council that we printed of those? Is
I
that?
don't understand the question.
John, there is some more cards. You have a box in there.
I have some extra cards to pass out in my office. Once those run out, I'll need to buy another box because I started with just 500. I didn't know how many we were realistically going to give out.
Gotcha, okay,
But
that
yeah,
makes sense.
We'll definitely order more if we start running low, and the turnaround time is only a few days. to get
Yeah,
them.
I just didn't know if there were extra cards other than the ones that were put in our
I got
box.
more.
If there are events that are going on, during the survey period, that we could have available.
We'll have more to give out.
Okay.
That is all I have.
I'm just going to make a comment, a clarification as I'm looking at the communications, and this is for the community upcoming for this September 30th meeting. I sent an email out this morning. My understanding is the group that's calling themselves United Group just wants a meet and greet, and at the Eford Park.
We're not advertising that.
I know, but it says meet and greet your mayoral candidates.
No, that's the candidate questionnaire. That's not your candidate forum. That's not a village event, and we're not advertising it.
Okay, so then I'll leave my comments for another, maybe open topics then, so, okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, so we can get out of this. Next up, planners reports.
Good morning, council. Got two items I just want to kind of get some direction on. First, I wish Andy was here because he knows what I'm talking about on this. There are two trees, if you drive down Waxhaw Marvin Road, that are outside of the Broadmoor subdivision that seem to have been compromised during the road improvement / infrastructure or water sewer, I think, extension. In short, Keith has went out there and looked at them. One's already dead, one's dying, would recommend they being removed. It's kind of unclear if they are in the right-of-way, fully on Broadmoor HOA's property, all that stuff. I have sent an email to DOT to ask what their policy procedure is if they're in the right-of-way, but I also asked Beechwood to go ahead and get a quote to prepare for them to potentially need to remove them as part of their closeout. Their quote was $10,000 to remove those two trees, because that does include having to get a temporary kind of safety, traffic safety plan, because they would have to shut down one of those lanes. They've asked me if council would be open to potentially splitting or paying a portion of that. It is a safety thing. I'm hoping DOT comes back and just says, hey, we'll take them down, but I just wanted to know if council has any, wants to contribute to those trees being removed. Can be yes, can be no, just curious.
This has not been budgeted, just so you all know.
Correct.
Are the trees ours?
No, they're two large trees that are on the edge of Waxhaw Marvin Road, outside of Broadmoor.
So what's your question? Do we want to pay to get them removed?
Do we want to pay a portion of, if DOT does not remove them, Beechwood Homes has asked if the village would be open to splitting the cost. All I'm doing is relaying a message.
Well, what's the cost?
10,000 was their quote from Barnett Tree,
Are we helping other neighborhoods remove trees?
or Bartlett.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I need to understand is whose responsibility would it be for right now anyway?
If they're in the DOT right-of-way, it would be DOT that cuts it down. It wouldn't be the village. We would only be responsible for removing the trees that are obstructing any type of right-of-way if and when they fall. So it would, at this point, it sounds like it would be the property owner, but if DOT is willing to do it based on their, if they want to prevent something from happening in the future, but I don't see where the village would have any responsibility in this at all.
Correct. With this, like I said, it's a DOT road. They're larger canopy trees. So, like I said, without a survey, I can't tell if it's fully in the right of way, not in the right of way. I mean, it's if you go down Waxhaw Marvin Road, right after you pass their first entrance, the two trees on the right. Like I said, Beechwood they got a quote from Bartlett, and it was for $10,000, and they just asked if the village would be open to paying a portion of that. And like I said, it's that cost because there would have to be a minor safety. They would have to shut down one lane and have traffic control out there the day that the company does it.
I would just caution council, if you decide to take action on this, to split this, you're kind of opening the door to have that expectation in the future, so just.
Yeah, I've just never heard of us having to contribute something like this in the past and not sure why specifically, we would start doing that, and what can of worms that opens up.
I agree with that, John.
All right, well, I'll relay that back to Beechwood, and then, like I said, await the response from DOT.
I have one thing, on Tom Short, there was some trees that was supposedly too close to Tom Short Road, and we were asked to remove it. We said it was on DOT, they came in and removed them.
That's the same approach that I like I said, I've reached out. I had not gotten a response yet, but hopefully we'll have one by the end of the week.
And given that this has happened during the construction, we assume that they damage that. Is there going to be mitigation, or are they going to replace them with trees? I mean, that's where I think we would get involved, because I know we tried to keep as many, especially established trees, you know, don't want to take that away, and we've had.
The short end of what our tree ordinance says, if it's dead, it can be removed without mitigation. So, all right, second item, I think I've mentioned this in the past, as Marvin Grove is preparing their submittal for their construction documents, and I don't really have a, no one pass this around. They, I think I've mentioned this, like I said, they're asking the village for a potentially temporary construction easement to do some minor grading, basically on that little half-acre parcel that we own at the roundabout, towards the back of that for sloping, for their pond. This was submitted to me yesterday. I just want to know if council's open to that. If so, then I will get this to Chaplain, and then I guess you guys can take a formal action on this at your October meeting.
So they're just asking us for a temporary easement so they can more effectively perform their construction.
Correct.
Is there any risk of us them damaging anything while?
No, our engineers already reviewed their initial grading plan, when, like I said, when this was first brought up last year, and he didn't see the issue. Like I said, I'll send it to him again. The attorney for them drafted this temporary, like I said, construction easement, and sent it to me yesterday. So I just wanted to, before I put it on your guys' agenda, I wanted to make sure you guys, one, understood what it was, but then two, see if you had any questions or problems with it. But if you don't, like I said, we'll move forward, and I'll get this to the attorney to review, and then bring this back to you guys at upcoming meeting.
Okay.
All right, that's all I got.
Thank you. Next up, we have Public Works report.
Good morning. Couple of things. I want to apologize to you, Mayor Polino. At one of the previous council meetings, I think it was you that said DOT was not accepting any more subdivision roads, and I kind of said I find that hard to believe, but I'll ask. So I did ask the question to NCDOT if they are no longer accepting residential roads for any municipalities that are in the POW bill business, which I thought would be the case as long as they accepted, they were to the standard. But I did receive an email back from DOT that said, we do not accept subdivision roads within municipal districts or within municipal limits onto the state system if the municipality receives POW bill funds. So you are correct. NCDOT is not accepting roads for subdivisions that are in a municipality that participates in POW bill. So I wanted to make sure.
I don't hear that often, that I'm correct.
You're
no,
right.
I mean, I think that's critical, because going forward, it's like if there's any development left, or we take on any other properties and they want to build something, the roads that go in there are going to be under Marvin's domain,
Unless they're private.
Right, unless they're private, yes.
Or unless they are unincorporated. Because if they're not in a municipality, the state then will take care of those roads and owns those roads until they become a part of a municipality, and if not, they're the NCDOT roads. So, and I think that needs to be clearly stated to people that are out there thinking that we can not bring on other neighborhood roads. If it's in the village of Marvin, NCDOT is saying they're yours because they're in a municipality, unless they are private. But will NCDOT, because someone will say, well, no, NCDOT takes over roads. Yeah, but they're not in a municipality. They are in unincorporated throughout the state. So this isn't, and some of the frustration you hear of things, people saying things about Marvin and what this council's doing. It's not isolated to Marvin. Other municipalities are dealing with the same ordinances, the same rules, guidelines that the state has, put out to the rest of the state. So I think it's clear, you are correct, but there's a delineation between, can roads be taken on by NCDOT? Absolutely. When they're not in a municipality or they are private. Just so that's clear.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because I know I questioned that, so.
Or the municipality does not receive PAL bill funds.
Correct.
So we receive PAL bill funds, so we have to take on any new neighborhood roads that come into the village.
And that would include what we annex, that if the voluntary annex comes into play, and that, say we get a neighborhood that wants to become part of Marvin.
I don't know if that's the case, though, because.
could be private.
You could have an individual property annex, and that doesn't mean that you have to take over the road if it's not already in Marvin.
So that's the case, true. But again, for all those out there that think that we are looking to, we don't have a choice. If they are in Marvin and they want to be a neighborhood and they're not private, we have to take those on. We don't have a choice. It doesn't come to vote.
Well, you're talking about any new roads. And existing roads are all handled like we have been, which.
Right, but
we
John,
assume them at some point.
there are factions of people out there that think that we dictate what happens here. And a lot of times we don't. It comes from the state of North NCDOT. So if a neighborhood comes in and if that's a neighborhood over there, let's just say that turns into a neighborhood. If it's private, we don't have to take them on. But because they're in the village of Marvin, we have to assume those roads.
They still have to comply with our process and our.
Yes,
civic
but
manual.
I'm just saying, we can't say, no, you're in Marvin, but we're not gonna take them on. And there are people that think that we can do that. We can't.
John, you talking about annexation? If somebody wants to be annexed by us, then they have to meet our road standards themselves before it happens. So there's no way that they'd be annexed, then we would have to do the roads. We would expect them to do that before they make the request, and we say, well, you have to get your roads up to this level. Mayor's explained that several times to people.
Well, I think that's conflating annexation, though, with the assumption of roads. And I don't think our annexation, we can accept an annexation without necessarily taking over state DOT roads that already exist.
But we can,
It's the same as if there is a neighborhood within the village currently that we have not taken over their roads yet. It's just a matter of whenever we get to it at that point.
Correct.
But brand-new roads, the state will not take. So, yes, I don't think I think John's right. I think if you're trying to annex in, the roads are just gonna be still maintained by NCDOT because they're not new roads. It's new neighborhoods that are coming in that we have to take over.
Have we clarified that with the DOT?
It's the same as, because they're not coming to us and forcing us
Yeah.
to take over the rest of Marvin's neighborhood roads yet.
Right.
At some point,
We're
they
trying to
may,
unite and
but we
unite
are
all.
trying to make it fair and equitable throughout the village. Everybody's getting taxed the same tax rate, and they're getting the same services.
Right.
And we are working towards that. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of money to work with, but we are trying to get there. But if a new neighborhood comes in and wants to annex in, ABC neighborhood says, we want to come on into Marvin, it does not mean that we have to take over their roads. They will still be maintained by DOT until we start that process.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And they, like I said, they still have to adhere to our spec manual and our standards, so until that happens.
And when she says new, just to be clear, that's an existing neighborhood that was unincorporated before. But if it's something that a developer comes and there's maybe 10 acres of land or 20 acres of land, say, and they're putting roads in there, and that becomes a neighborhood, that is going to be
Yes.
Marvin.
Yes.
Unless it's private.
Right.
Yes.
Right, but when you say new, it's like, what is new? Is it's new to Marvin because they've never been in Marvin, but is it new as far as built and constructed?
I think.
Well, I don't think it includes existing. I don't think, like if like Robinwood, for example, I know they're private, but if they weren't, if they came in, I don't think it's the assumption that we have to take it over. I think they can remain private or stay in DOT's name until they're brought up to
Correct.
whatever standard.
Yes, correct.
Okay, just to be clear. All right. Sorry.
Okay, are y'all good on that?
Yep.
The next thing, we've talked about this a few times, the Marvin Eford Park barn has had some minor leaks. I've got photos in here, you guys can see it. We've had several people come out at this point. All of them had pretty much recommended a complete replacement. No, I'm sorry, a repair. We had looked at complete replacement. Inside your agenda packets, there's a few different quotes. The lowest quote that we received was right around $16,000. So we are recommending moving forward on that. You do see a quote in here for $8,000. However, we've determined that was incorrect. They had some miscalculations on the square footage. So we are asking y'all to move forward on the $17,000 quote, and we would have to pull that money from capital reserve.
Just a quick question. If, were those weather-related damages to the barn? And the next follow-up question would be, is that something we could claim on insurance?
Yes, so we have had one individual says that it does look like it's weather-related. We are going to pursue that route, and if that's the case, we'll have to pay the deductible of $1,000. But if it's not, we want to be prepared to pay the full price here.
But don't they do that before we do any work on it? You have an insurance adjuster go out there and confirm?
So the process that we're going to take next is we're going to try to file it on insurance. And if that happens, then we'll go ahead and go through that process. But if it doesn't, we want to go ahead and be prepared to not have to wait another 2 weeks to come back. So worst case scenario, $17,000. Best case scenario, whatever the deductible is, which is either $1,000 or $5,000. I don't remember right now off the top of my head. We would have to do a budget amendment regardless. So we will come back at the next council meeting with whatever option was the lowest.
Okay.
If insurance, if they deem it to be weather-related and the insurance, I would also take a look at the restrooms and the maintenance shed as well. Don't leave those out.
We can definitely do that.
Also, the shed at the back, yeah. Because if it's weather-related, then it has impacted all of those as well, and I would take advantage of, yeah.
I wanted to add also.
Matt, if you don't mind, step up to that podium because the audience can't hear you.
I wanted to add also the quote for 16.4, the company is Griffin Knight. If that guy can do the insurance and he deals with the insurance 100% for the village. So keep that in mind as well. He does the whole process for us.
Yeah, we've already spoken to him about it, so we're prepared for that. But we'll mention the other ones to take a look at those. Are you guys okay with us moving forward on the 17,000? I mean, okay,
Yes.
pending. We'll come back at the next meeting with whatever option was the final result. That's all I have on Public Works. I think I told you guys this the last time. The striping was done at Time Short, and the handicap stripes were done at the park, so it looks really good. If you guys get a chance to go over there and look at that. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Parks and Recreation report. Tyler, what you got?
Yeah, so October 24th, trick or treat, 5 to 9 p.m. at Eford Park. Bring your kids out, put a costume on. We'll have bounce houses, DJ, tons of local businesses there handing out candy. We always have a great time out there at that event, so come on out. It's on a Friday night, October 24th, starting at 5. The whole month of November, we will be participating in the Friendship Tree again, partnering up with the Christmas Bureau in Union County. You'll be able to come into Village Hall on our Christmas tree out here in the lobby, pick a name, fill out a form, and you adopt that child, and you're responsible for that child's Christmas this year. We will set the information out so you'll know that there's a week towards the end of November that you come and drop off the gifts, and then we have a group of volunteers lined up to package them up and load them up, and we'll take them over to Monroe to get them dropped off. November 15th, car show. It's a Saturday morning out at Eford Park, partnering up with our friends over there at First Class Cars. Bring your vintage car out, come get some coffee, hang out, meet some people around the community. If you don't have a vintage car, come out anyway, park and look at all the cool cars. We had a great turnout back in June. We had some really cool rides out there, so definitely come get involved in that. And then wrapping up the end of the year, we'll have the tree lighting on December 6th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Santa Claus is going to stop by, so that's going to be awesome. We'll have some local performances and just a good time. Any questions on the events?
Do they have to register if they do have a car, or just show up?
You do not, just to show up.
That's rare, but that's
Yeah.
great.
We have a good bit of room, so for now, until it grows and gets ginormous, then we'll start taking registration, which is coming soon. All right. So also next thing I wanted to ask council about, special event rentals. So I was approached by a group that does like traveling concerts called All Nashville Group. They were interested in, they travel around the country. They identified Marvin as a place where they would like to do a concert at Eford Park. I don't think they're going to get to do it this year because they kind of wanted an answer a little bit sooner than I was able to provide before this meeting. But it just kind of led into the question of, this isn't really the first time we've been approached about people kind of renting the whole park for an event, whether that be a concert like this, a 5K, a giant cookout, would creating like a special event rental form or allowing people to rent the entire park, is that something that council would like to move forward with? In the past, if someone's done like a 5K or something, we've charged them by the hour like it was a normal barn rental. But in cases like the concert, kind of opened my eyes that, if they were going to use the entire park, is there a rate, a type of thing we'd like to pursue, and, maybe not closing the park, but putting a sign out front saying park's being rented today, or anything like that.
Yes, I'm fine if somebody wants to rent the park, and I think if somebody rents the park, then the park should be closed to everybody else. Like, I don't think there needs to be a sign out there. The park's closed, somebody has rented it. I'm fine if somebody wants to rent the entire park. Now, I think the price needs to reflect that. I don't think it needs to be an hourly price. I think it probably needs to be like.
It'd be like a day rate or something.
Like a day rate, but, there definitely needs to be a heavy security deposit, definite, like, cleanup rules, things like that. But, I don't have a problem with that. I don't know if anybody else does.
So is this group, for instance, if they wanted to rent it in their on-the-road show, are they selling tickets?
So that's part of it, is they would be selling tickets.
It's a venue for.
Right, we wouldn't, this is like, in this instance, like, we wouldn't even be a part of it. Like, they would hire their own off-duty officers, and they would show up in the morning, set up, clean up, and leave that night. It'd just be a rental. Like, it wouldn't be classified as an event, even though they'd be like selling tickets and stuff. Like,
We would require them to have insurance or
Right.
to cover anything homeless.
stuff like this, we would treat it like when we'd be added like as an additional insured, and they would have their own
Would we be
insurance.
providing any employees from the village to?
No, well,
manage
in
it,
this,
like on site and where they can park and?
well, that's part of it. Like, for the concert, they have their own staff and stuff, but just as like an overarching umbrella to say like of event rentals, if it's just a rental, we wouldn't, staff like Public Works and like me to park if somebody's just having a big barbecue.
So we need to, a couple of things. This is really just to be an initial conversation to see if you guys are receptive to it. We still need to run it by chaplain, make sure it's legally okay for us to do that. So conceptually, if you guys are okay with that, then we can clear it with legal to make sure from a public use standpoint, it's okay. Then we can bring back some other recommendations and as far as costs and how the process is gonna work. But it,
I mean, I think that's a good idea, but I also say let's send it over to Parks Rec and Greenway and
Yeah,
see,
I think over the,
see what their thoughts are.
I think over the years, though, one of the things we've been hesitant in doing is making reservations to the extent that it precludes the public from utilizing other areas of the park. So for example, you know, you can rent the barn, but that doesn't mean that people can't go use the playground and the other areas of the park. You know, I'd have to better understand how large the financial incentive would be, because of course we do look to offset costs that we have in maintaining the park and all of those things. That's part of why we do the rentals and stuff like that. But I do think that it's a jump for us to kind of abdicate what a lot of our responsibilities are for, you know, maintaining events and you know, kind of the situation at the park, especially if we're precluding other residents from being able to use or enjoy it for any given period of time, you know?
I mean, yeah, I get that point, but I don't think we're gonna have like somebody renting out the park every weekend, like every day, every weekend. And I mean, I think about it, I'm like, it would be a great place to have a wedding, but I wouldn't want to get married there, like at the barn and have kids on the playground, you know? So, I mean, I think that you've got some opportunity there. Again, I'd like to know kind of cost and things like that, especially if it is like renting out the entire park. Like, it needs to be worth our while to close it down.
Reflected.
Correct. So, but yes, let's talk to, I mean, I think we should at least explore it. If, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
if
think
nothing
anybody
else,
is,
discounted tickets to those who are gonna attend that live in Marvin.
I mean, something, yeah, I mean, we can,
Anything to,
but if it's like okay, let's take the concert out, but let's say it's a wedding. Obviously, I'm not going to somebody's random wedding that I don't know. But again, I think if it reflects a reasonable fee, then we should at least explore it. And I would think we talk to Chaplin about it. I think we send it to Parks Rec and Greenway and let them kind of mull over it a little bit if Chaplin kind of gives us thumbs up, and then, you know, maybe have Parks Rec and Greenway look at like maybe what they think costs might be, and then bring it back.
Yep.
okay, we can do that.
so that's a maybe.
Yes and no.
Can I add one thing on events? I forgot to mention, just a brief update. So we do have the Arbor Day event scheduled at the park for October 25th. It will be from 1 to 3 and include a tree planting, educational opportunity and ceremony. Just wanted to make sure council was aware, and I guess to potentially let myself or Austin know if you plan on attending, because we may have to do a potential quorum notice. But once again, that.
We don't normally do those for events.
For events, okay, then disregard that, but still, you're encouraged to attend. I've already spoke with the mayor, and I know that he will be attending for the ceremony, but it will be, once again, 1 to 3 at the park, and tree planting ceremony will be scheduled around 2, and we'll have some educational type booths and events leading up to that ceremony at 2 o'clock, as well as some tree and trail walks throughout the day. So, any questions on that?
It has to be us.
All right, thank you.
What day is that?
It's Saturday, October 25th.
In the afternoon after our bulk drop-off.
Correct, yep.
Village Hall.
I'll get with you on that. I not to work it, but maybe for some minor preparation. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, coffee with council debrief. I guess I'll take this one. I've been trying to attend all of the ones that are coming up as much as I can get in front of people, and I was a little surprised. I was very concerned at first, but apparently there was an HOA meeting along with our coffee with council. However, we did have 1, 2, 3, 4 people attend. And I'd just like to go on the record. They came in very concerned, and I give them huge credit for coming in and hearing it from the horse's mouth, because they were concerned that we had approved, or they were being told it's just beyond the Fincher property. What's the property owner's name?
Zimmer.
Zemmer. Is it Zimmer? I believe it was right next to it, which is right in front of the 3 new homes that were recently built there, right on Waxhaw Marvin Boulevard. And they were very concerned because a wife had told them that they were going to be building a bunch of rooftops in there and stuff. And we looked at them like, we don't have any, and just to confirm, Hunter, we have nothing from Zimmer coming in and stuff, so, okay. So they were very concerned, they came in.
For the record, Hunter shook his head in the no direction.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Because nobody can see him and he didn't say it out loud. So no, we have no development proposal for anything on Waxhaw Marvin Road that is beside the Fincher property or close to the Fincher property, correct? There we go, thank you.
Yes, that is correct. There is no rezoning applications nor no subdivision applications for really any, none of those properties specifically. I was about to just say no properties on Waxhaw Marvin Road in general, but no, there's been nothing submitted
So my understanding.
or even discussed, to my knowledge.
Individuals out there that are, maybe running for office that are saying that's happening. And he did the right thing, and that's what I encourage everyone. I think a lot of us are getting, or a lot of the community is getting their information from Nextdoor. And again, I encourage you, take 5 minutes, give a call to Jill or our town manager, or just find out what's going on. Call Hunter. Austin's available, and take the time to find out what's going on. So I think we cleared the air with that, and there was no concern, so that helped. But again, we appreciate those individuals that take the time to come in and meet with us. We're trying to be as transparent as we can, and that's all I had for the coffee with council. It was a nice conversation. So. What's that? Okay, so we're going to go back to our manager's report. So are you ready for that now?
Yes.
Okay.
I have several things here. Just tried to itemize them out so I wouldn't forget them. Preserved trail issues, you guys have had an array of emails over the last couple of days or week in regards to preserved trail. Some of them were from a private resident, some of them were from the Preserve HOA themselves. I'll start off with hours of operation. This was actually a continuation of not just Preserve, but other trails. You all had asked some conversations in the past about putting a no loitering ordinance. I've had conversations with the Sheriff's Department, and like we said at the last couple of meetings, it has to be very specific for whatever the loitering is. I've provided an email from the Union County Attorney that goes over the loitering statutes, that they have to have a purpose provisions such as no loitering for prostitution, no loitering for narcotics dealing. Like, you have to be very specific in that from a constitutional standpoint. We can do that, but obviously, as you see, it has to be a very specific purpose, and we would likely get into some ordinances that are very convoluted because of all the particular purposes.
Can I ask what is prompting the hours of operation conversation?
Councilman Mortman and I had a conversation with a resident from the Preserve, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. They had specifically asked for that. At the top of my head, I don't recall if anyone else has. I do remember that conversation with the resident, but I don't recall any.
But what was the reason that they wanted the hours?
They just felt like it was for safety standards. They wanted to increase safety, and they felt the hours would increase the safety.
I do recall also, I think Christina had us kind of have a discussion about it on the PRNG board. So we did that, and I believe I reported back to council at the time, and there was a discussion here whether or not we needed to implement some hours on the trails. And, with the lack of any real, information on why it was an issue, we took no action at that time.
And I'll say full disclaimer, I'm only basing what I just said based on the last couple of months of memory. I would have to literally go back and look through emails to see if over the last couple of years anyone has requested specifically. So there very well could be some emails where people have asked. I just can't tell you that for sure without looking back. I do know the main impetus of this was the conversation that we had with the resident from the Preserve.
Okay, and Parks Rec and Greenway didn't feel the need for this. We haven't felt the need for this. I mean, I know that there is well, do you want to go on to your second point, and then I can bring the hours of operation
sure.
back up for that?
No vehicle use, installation of bollards and cameras. So again, a string of emails that you guys have had over the last couple of weeks where an individual from the preserve had sent in a photo of a truck that was on the trail. My recommendation to you all is to allow staff to install cameras and bollards. But again, just like I said with the tree situation that Hunter brought up, if you're going to do it for this one, you need to be prepared to do it for others as well. I did get Matt to go out and look at that case. It's going to be about $150 per bollard plus concrete and the staff hours to do it. The cameras are around the ones that Matt had selected. And again, there's a packet of information here for you. They were around $300 for 2 of them, I believe. And we have not done an inventory on all trails to say where they would be needed, but I just want to make sure you guys are aware.
And what is the purpose of the bollards and the cameras?
The bollards would be to prevent any type of vehicles like the one that's in the photo that was submitted to not be allowed to come down the trail. The cameras would be for us to be able to get license tags if that happens, because for some reason we didn't get a license tag with this picture.
So somebody sent the picture in to the village
Correct,
of a vehicle
correct,
on the trail.
correct.
Okay, so, and if I recall, the picture of the truck was of the front end of it.
Correct.
Well, I've got a lot of questions here, but my first question is, they had a picture of the front of the truck, but not the back of the truck with the license plate tag.
That's correct. And there's also a email where I had asked the sheriff's department these same questions that you're asking, because
Okay.
I felt like they should be able to get a photo of the license plate to pull the tags, and then law enforcement could pursue that. But
Agreed. Okay, so we don't have that. It looks, well, and, okay, so I'm going to go to the hours of operation. I feel like it was requested that there was hours of operation also for trucks or vehicles on the trails. Well, it was daylight, so I don't think that would have stopped a truck on the trail for hours of operation, because it was in the middle of the day. I don't know what time it was.
that's fair.
But it was light outside in the picture. So, and if I'm correct, and I'm looking at this picture here, I'm trying to show it to the audience,
3:36 PM was the time of,
3:36 PM. Okay, so hours of operation would not have prevented a truck on the trail or a vehicle on the trail. So if I'm looking at this picture correctly, and if I'm right, this truck was coming off of the blue line, which is the preserves trail.
that's what it appears in the photo that I've seen, yes.
So the truck did not enter our trail off of our existing trail easement, correct?
I don't know how it would even be possible.
Okay, so no, that's a no, so.
Correct.
Okay, so in all likelihood, because it looks like it's rounding the corner of this black fence, and the only way to do that is to come off of the preserves trail, that the preserve has told us, and I don't have that email right in front of me, but under no circumstances are we, the village, to be on that trail, and that we, the village, our staff, is to not be on that trail, but this is where the truck has entered our trail from.
That's what it appears,
Okay,
yes.
so that's what it appears. So I guess my question would be, if this truck that we have a front-end picture of entered our trail off of the preserves trail, shouldn't the preserve be preventing trucks entering our trail from their trail?
That is what I suggested, but I don't think that was very well received.
Okay, well, so, okay, so I'm just trying to make sure that I'm understanding this. So the preserve, and I don't know if it was the preserve HOA that brought this to our attention or if it was,
I believe this one was a
I
private
believe that it
resident.
was.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think this particular one was a private resident.
Was a okay, so it was a private resident. So if this truck had entered our trail from our trail, the village's trail, then I would be all for I mean, that's wrong. We don't want trucks on our trail. It will rip them up. That is a safety issue. It is a maintenance issue. I would say, yeah, we need to do something. But it looks to me from these pictures that it entered off of a section of a trail that we are not allowed to be on. We are not allowed to manage, maintain, anything. So I would go back to this individual resident and let him know that he should probably talk to his HOA or her HOA, whoever it is, and let them know that a vehicle entered off of their section that we are not allowed to maintain. And I, as the village, would appreciate them regulating vehicles not coming onto our trail. Because again, it is a safety issue and it is a maintenance issue. And if we have evidence that it came off of our trail, then absolutely we need to remedy that. But the picture that I saw, and again, if there are more pictures out there that says that that's not accurate, please bring it to us. And I know that the Sheriff's Department has asked multiple times for other pictures that they have not been given. But if they do have extra pictures, then that would be super helpful to show that it did not come off of the preserve section of that trail. But I mean, I mean, I think it's pretty upsetting that, you know, we've got vehicles that are coming off of the preserves trail and onto our trail, and they want, I mean, I don't know that they want, I don't know why they want us to do something about it. It's coming off of their section of the trail that we're not allowed to.
Well, I don't think the preserve HOA itself has, I have to go back and look. I'm almost positive it was from a private individual. So I
Okay,
don't
well
think-
then, and that's totally fair, and they probably didn't know, and that is totally understandable. I would just probably go back to that resident, that homeowner, and say, listen, you know, from the pictures that you've presented to us, it looks like it's coming off of the preserve trail. I would talk to your HOA about this.
I've already done that.
And they said what?
I don't recall exactly what they said, but they did not really like that answer. I do recall that, so.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's not, again, I know I've got it somewhere here in an email that basically they are telling us emphatically to stay off of their trails. This is not our trail. So I just don't understand that. Now, listen, if we want to just throw up some cameras back there so that we can get our own and have it facing this corner from our, from coming from Village Hall and face that corner, I'm great throwing up some trail cams and we can have them running 24/7 for anybody that happens to go on there. And maybe we can catch, you know, the license plate tag, but I'm absolutely fine. So if I'm looking at this picture here, we can probably, you know, have it over here kind of facing this kind of Y, and pick up that. I'm good putting some cameras there and trying to help capture anything else. But again, a bollard, I think, should be something that, you know, they should be doing to help prevent other vehicles coming onto our trails, because that's where it came from. And if I'm wrong, then again, please, I'll happily say that I'm wrong, but all of the visual evidence does not support that.
So they had time to take a picture of the front, but they didn't.
No, there's a
go on.
camera back there, and they could only get the front quarter panel of it.
And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Lieutenant May has expressed that if they could get the copy of the license plate tag, that they could, you know, pursue it further. There's an email from Lieutenant May that I'd passed around to you guys that goes over kind of some of the conversations that were had regarding this issue and the complainant, so that you guys are aware. I did ask, a question, if anything has changed in terms of trail safety, in terms of what he's communicated in the past. And again, at the end of that email, you'll see a statement from him that essentially says their stance remains the same in terms of Marvin's stance on crime in the Marvin area remains unchanged. There's no evidence to suggest that Marvin has experienced a rising crime, nor is there data to support claims of increased crime related to existing trails. Our guidance to residents remains the same. If they believe crime is occurring near their home, they should call 911 immediately so that deputies can respond and provide assistance.
So when I looked at that picture, and I think we're talking about this in maybe a way that I'm not sure is fully correct, where we're talking about this truck that we have a picture of driving down the trails. I don't think it's even feasible that a truck of that size could drive on some or many of our natural trails anyway. But it looks from the picture's perspective that truck is really just, off almost the back deck of one of the houses there, probably the homeowner that submitted the concern and the picture. But is there any evidence that the truck actually went driving down any of our trails? Or, I would imagine that's probably within 50 or 60 feet of where it might have gotten on. And I wonder, without having a full identification of what that truck is it a utility service like Union Power? Is it a surveyor that's been asked to survey something? Do we have any other additional knowledge that we didn't have at the time of those emails as to, why a truck would have even been there? And, that would have been, if we had a picture of, some identifying, markings on the truck or the license plate, of course.
Yeah, so
Those would seem to be
That's a
important.
good question, and one of the questions that I had asked James, Lieutenant May, in the follow-up email that he sent, I'm just going to read this so that it kind of answers your question. I've asked the complainant for additional dates, times, and details of other alleged trespassing incidents that may have helped to identify a suspect. Ultimately, the only evidence provided was a single photograph of the truck. The image shows the front of the pickup truck but does not capture the license plate or distinguishing features that could assist in identification. Notably, a freshly placed survey stake is visible near the truck, which suggests that it may have belonged to an engineering or survey crew working in the area. While it's not uncommon for contractors to drive onto areas where they are actively working, we are unable to confirm whether this vehicle was a part of such a crew given the limited information available. At this point, all leads have been exhausted and the case has been closed due to a lack of evidence to either identify a suspect or confirm the truck belonged to an authorized work crew. So that, I don't know.
I mean, regardless of whose truck it is, it still didn't access our trails from our trail. They didn't drive off of Village Hall connector right here and drive down there because they were turning the corner at that Y in the picture. So regardless, it's not coming off of our trails.
So my ask to you all today was if you were willing for the village to commit to bollards and cameras. I've already communicated to the resident, and I think I even copied the HOA that basically the same sentiment that you're expressing now. I think that nothing has changed since the last email that I've sent, but if you're not willing to do the bollards or the cameras, I don't really think we need to discuss it any further unless you all.
I don't think we need to do the bollards, but I say let's throw up a couple cameras back there, and we'll have it pointing in that direction for seeing who's coming off the trails. I think that's totally fine. Happily do that. We can have those and run those and.
And I wouldn't think they're like permanent cameras or anything, because if we hear of any issues anywhere,
We can
we
move
could
'em.
potentially move
Sure,
them or something
absolutely.
like that.
But again, I mean, this was brought to our attention, and, I think, if we can't get any other photographic evidence of who the truck is, maybe we can put up some cameras from some different angles and have them, facing in that direction. That would be,
I
and
assume
hopefully
this
capture it.
I assume this happened one time.
That's the only time we've been made aware of it, but, I mean, I don't know.
Is it the consensus of the council for us to pick up a few cameras and install them? Is everybody okay with that? Any objections?
Yeah, I'd want to make them Kim's point, mobile, because could this potentially happen in other areas where we can, move cameras around?
Yeah.
How I'm almost thinking, is it like a deer camera, or is it?
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think probably like a trail cam that, picks up with motion and
Yeah, that's what we've
records it.
proposed.
And either, are we gonna look at getting like actual video or just still pictures?
We've got a couple of options, and we've got it cloud-based so that if, it gets
Perfect.
stolen, we'll have all that.
Okay,
But
perfect.
if there's no objections, we'll proceed with that, and make sure we analyze that legally too from our attorney's standpoint. But am I hearing any objections on cameras?
No,
No.
And I'm hearing a consensus that there's no desire for bollard installation.
definitely.
Okay, and then it sounds like I'm hearing a consensus that we're not interested in trail hours.
No.
Okay,
I got one other statement to talk about. There's other people that have easements besides us. The sewer system, they have easements and
That's
everything where
correct.
they have to go. They drive the small pickups, they drive the big trucks, depending on what they're doing, and they go and as they please because they have easements on all those.
that's correct.
And I don't know if they've got another easement, have they looked if someone else has easements where they can access any part of their,
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the whole point of Lieutenant May's comment is none of that has been confirmed or denied.
Well-
I would also point out is that if there are utility easements and things back there and near the trail, we might not even be allowed to put bollards there because it might inhibit Union Power from being able to access lines or gas lines or sewer lines or things like that as well. So, that would have to be considered also.
Union Sewer, they will fight you over it because easements, if you block the access, because they said they don't have time to find out who I need to get a key to or get access, they have the easements, they go and come as they please.
I just strongly recommend too, that if you're gonna make a case like this, take the extra time to take a picture of the back of it, the license tag, that helps. Taking a picture of the front almost doesn't really help your case at all, and brings up the wrong set of questions. But if you can get a license tag number, that really helps us and helps the deputies along with this as well, so.
Okay. Okay, are y'all good on those? Yep. All right, moving on to the next one, which is the removal of greenway maps. Trying to see if this was an individual resident or if it was a request from the preserve. I'm sorry, I should have looked at this. We received an email, it looks like from an individual resident, to remove the preserve connector trail. It's a conceptual trail that's located in our greenways and trails maps. It's on the website. I sent you guys this email. I provided a printout for you so you can see where the conceptual trails are highlighted on the website. Green is existing, yellow is conceptual. There's a lot of yellow conceptual trails on there. The trail legend does delineate that the yellow is conceptual, and it could include trails designated as yellow or to be constructed and have varying statuses. Some trails are purely conceptual at this stage, and easements have not been acquired, while others are funded and are planned for future construction. There was, like I said, the individual request to remove that from the website. I'm going to let you guys chat about it, see if you're interested in that, but just keep in mind, as I've stated in the last two things, just be prepared to do it for all of them.
Why do they want them removed?
It's probably in your email. Well, my thing is, because we've had so much issue, we've had so many issues, that was terrible English, we've had so many issues with trail building, because people are like, well, I didn't know you guys were gonna do that, I didn't know this, so why would we not keep possible future trails on the map so people know that when they're moving in, or when they're buying a house, or when they're building something, that there is a possibility that there may be a trail there? I mean, I think giving them more information is better than not, because we've gotten so much, we've had such an issue with trails recently that I would much rather people know, hey, there may be a trail that's coming here. This may happen at some point, so that people can be fully educated and we're being fully transparent. So we're like, oh yeah, well, we had it in the plans, but we just didn't show it to you guys. Like, that's not our MO.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that we asked Parks Rec and Greenway to look at this, and what did they,
Well, and this is something that goes back many, many years, you know. From the time that the Village of Marvin first put together a conceptual map, there are many areas that are on those older maps that might not even be feasible anymore. But the position has always been that both the PRG board and the council in general have a responsibility to, as best we can, give residents the information of where trails could potentially be, whether they're funded, whether they're planned, whether they're just conceptual. But that way, like you said, you know, a resident or a developer comes in and is looking. If they're doing their due diligence, they can see right on our website the published map of where these things are. And it's also important to think that when you're trying to come up with a conceptual plan, you're not talking about something that's just for the next 2 to 5 years. When we're making decisions for the Village of Marvin, we're really needing to consider, what is Marvin going to be 25 years out, 50 years out? And unless you're kind of putting these things out there and planning them properly for that long term, you know, you're not really being responsible to the public. And you will be accused of not providing that information or pulling the rug out from under somebody. So I think it's extremely important that we continue to keep those things. There's other arguments that are made, oh, well, that property owner is never going to give an easement for that trail, right? That connects maybe 2 others. Well, you know what? That property owner may not be the property owner for the next 10, 20, 50 years, right? And the property owner that might buy it may see, wow, we could have a trail here. That fits perfectly what I'm looking to do for my development. So we don't take things off the map, you know, for that reason, because, you know, what we look at as the Village of Marvin right now is just a snippet in time. And what we're trying to do from a planning perspective is to look over the long term, you know? And that's why I don't think we should be taking these things off when we have them pretty clearly delineated and noted in the legend.
So to answer your question, though, PRG, I did ask PRG to discuss these facts. Full disclosure, they have not discussed them yet. I was personally getting ridiculed for not acting fast enough in making these decisions. Obviously, when I bring forth information to you all, we have to look at it from a global standpoint and not just one isolated case. So I went ahead and put this on your agenda for you all to discuss, and then PRG has not yet had the opportunity to have this conversation because you all were first and I was not acting fast enough.
I'm sorry, so council is ridiculing you?
No, I'm sorry, no. An individual resident was basically telling me that
You're
there
not
was
doing
some-
your job?
Essentially, yes.
Okay, so let's just back up here real quick. So our staff does an amazing job, and you may have a request as a resident, but you also have to remember that staff doesn't make decisions. Council makes decisions as a group, not one individual person on council, not 2 individual people on council, it's the majority on council. And we have meetings twice a month. So if you make a request, then you're going to have to wait and be patient. And I know that this is maybe hard to understand, and that's fair, but we don't just make a decision. Christina cannot just make a decision. Usually how it works is that we will send it to, if it's a planning issue, we'll send it to planning board. If it's a Parks Rec and Greenway issue, we'll send it Parks Rec and Greenway. I would have assumed that Parks Rec and Greenway would have heard this before we brought it here, and it's fine, because I understand, Christina, the position that you're in, because you're getting hounded by one individual. for this information. So I would just ask the public to recognize that staff cannot make a decision on their own, and it has to come to council for these types of requests. So if we can all just try to be a little patient and understand that we make decisions in public. We do not do them at the council level. We get input from our different boards, but we have to be in a meeting in order to make these types of decisions, any decisions. So just remember that and try to give our staff a little bit of grace as we're trying to get things on our agenda. That would be super helpful, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, and I will say, I had some conversations with PRG Chair Christina Traub, who's here in the audience today, for the purpose of listening to this conversation. She is going to have the conversation with the PRG board at their next meeting, which I think is next week after next. If they feel fundamentally different from the conversations that you guys are having here, then obviously we can have that conversation again, but there's nothing more that we can do at a staff level than
Yeah,
what we've done.
I would let them have the conversation, and if they can, if they've, like you said, a fundamentally different response to this, and they've got good reasons for it, then by all means, let's talk about it again, because, you know, we want that type of input. But for now, unless we hear something crazy different, I think we leave it on for now.
Okay, so just to recap the last three things: no interest in trail hours, no interest in the installation of bollards, but we are installing cameras, no interest in the removal of greenway maps from the conceptual website.
Correct.
Everybody's, no objections, I assume.
Correct.
Okay. All right, the last thing is, I did receive an email from the Preserve. If you all recall, we did a scavenger hunt, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, to kind of get the kids excited, the kids in Marvin excited about walking trails and exercising and getting out of the house. It actually was very successful. We had kids coming in, teenagers coming in. We got a kind of diversified prize pack for teenagers so that they could be excited about doing some activities as well as kids. So every day we saw the kids come in and really excited about getting prizes. We did receive an email from the Preserve that basically asked organized activities such as scavenger hunts go well beyond the normal use of public use as a greenway, and they request that we immediately cease scheduling, promoting, and conducting scavenger hunts or other organized events on the village trails without the association's written consent.
Is that on our trails?
It's on the, well, we did it on all trails. We did the scavenger hunt.
All Village of Marvin
Yes.
trails, yeah.
Yeah. The park, Tullamore, Preserve, Amber Meadows, the Loop.
I'm not interested. I mean, it's not an unauthorized use, as they are our trails, they are our easements, and I am not sure what having a scavenger hunt for children to get outside and be active and try to enjoy nature is liability, safety, and nuisance risk. Now, if they would have come to us and said, X, Y, and Z, we've got photographic evidence of these children trashing the trails or whatever, then that's a whole nother conversation. But from my understanding, it's just, they just don't want them on our trails, the village's trails that is for the use and enjoyment of the entire village.
There was no evidence indicating any type of damage in any of the email that we received.
I'm good.
And I assume there's no objections to that. Everyone's okay.
I still want you to do another one in the wintertime. Let's get them out over the holidays. Yep, let's do it.
Yeah, I don't see that, that raised any concerns. It would be different if, for some reason, we were getting complaints that a pack of these children were doing damage to some area of the trail or going off the trails onto individual homeowners' properties or anything like that. But I'm not aware that we've received any negative feedback.
Neither am I.
And
But
I
go-
mean, we saw all the positive feedback as kids were coming in and picking up their
Excited.
prizes and everything,
Yes.
so.
So, and just, I'm going to go ahead and preemptively put this out there, because we do plan on doing this again. If you do have complaints, please bring pictures, because I don't want you to say, oh, these kids were doing all this with no anything, like, because we're gonna need to see some evidence, or call the police. Even better, call the sheriff's department. They can come out, they can take a written report, but for now,
God forbid kids use our trails.
God forbid kids are out enjoying nature and getting out and
Off the
off
phone.
their phones, off their computer screens. So, yeah. So I look forward to the one in the wintertime. Maybe I'll even go out and see if I can find one. Is it open for big kids too? Yes. Okay.
And you don't require a mask on these, like, to wear a mask or anything like that. I mean, how far is this gonna go? I mean, it's just kind of silly.
One thing I.
Nails around them.
One thing I've sensed, through a number of these issues here is a common theme that a number of these issues seem to be kind of centered around the preserve. As the liaison to PRG, which, handles the parks and recs and greenways, and I see Christina is here, but I'm certainly willing, and I'm sure Christina would be too, if anyone from the HOA board of the preserve would like to have a discussion with us about any of these items, we're certainly willing to talk to them more about it.
Okay.
Agreed, Christine? Yeah, and certainly if you'd like to come and participate in public comment or something, at the PRG meeting, we can.
For the audience listening, Christina said that the next meeting for PRG is on October 7th. The HOA is willing to come in and make a comment if they so choose.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Moving on to, next up, we have consent agenda. I'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented,
As amended,
as amended. I'm sorry, my apologies.
so moved.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up, unfinished business. First up, we have discussion of dates for upcoming coffee with council events, October through December.
All right, so closing out the year for Coffee of Council, you only have a few of these. Wayne did sign up in advance, and since Bob is not here, I did call him, and he went ahead and signed up in advance, so we've done our homework early.
Overachievers.
I know. I'm sorry, I'm pulling up the schedule here. So first up is Thursday, October 2nd. Wayne has signed up for that. That's at 10 a.m. I need one more. And since Andy's not here, y'all can sign him up if you want.
What date is it?
Thursday, October 2nd.
At what time?
10.
a.m.
We can voluntold Andy to do some evening
What
ones.
day
He
is
can't do them. It's
Hold on, let
it's
me
a
take a look.
Thursday. It is also, there's no Union County schools that day. I will be in Clemson on a school tour, so I will not be available that day.
I can do that.
I was gonna say I could do that.
John, that means it will be a good meeting with you and I. With
It was going to be a bad meeting if it was Joe.
No,
Yeah, it's throwing Joe over the cliff there.
Next
You know,
up,
I'm gonna
Joe
try and
was
show
another
up.
one
I'm
that-
gonna try and show up to anyone I can. so.
Good. There you go.
next up is it's Tuesday, October 28th. That's 6 p.m.
Let's voluntold Andy for that since he's not
Andy,
here.
Okay. Joe, I'm going to draft you if he says he can't do it.
Yeah, I'm in for that too, so you'll send us invites, right?
Next is Thursday, November 6th. This is 10 a.m. Bob has signed up for this one. I need one more.
Do it, Joe.
Pick me.
Joe. Okay. Next up is Council with Kids. You guys have this scheduled for Tuesday, November 25th. This is the week of Thanksgiving at 6 p.m. Normally, we go beyond the normal 2, so if you guys want to do at least 3 of y'all,
But that's something
I
we
think
typically
we all try to do.
all of us.
We all do that.
as much as you normally can. There's usually 1 or 2 of you that has something else going on.
I had my kid's birthday last year, so I couldn't do it, but I'm in this year.
Okay, so Kim, Wayne,
Yes.
Jamie, are you doing that one?
Yeah.
Council with Kids?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay. John?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll plan on most of y'all. I'll just put all down for now, but I will confirm with Bob. Bob was a maybe. I do need to check with Andy, though. He's normally able to do it, though.
And the time on that one again?
That'll be 6 p.m., Tuesday, November 25th. And we do normally have some refreshments for the kids, like juice boxes, cookies, things like that. You do have to show up to get the cookies, though. Last is Thursday, December 4th. You guys normally only do one in December. That's 10 a.m. Bob has signed up. Who wants to do it with Bob?
Thursday, what?
Thursday, December 4th.
Oh,
It's 10
December
a.m.
4th. I was like,
Bob has signed up. I just need one more person.
yeah, I mean,
I'll do it.
John? Okay. So you guys will get calendar invites from me on these, and let me know if anyone has a schedule change. We'll get someone else to cover it. That's it.
thank you. All right, next, we're going to take a quick little bio break and be right back.
Brief recess.
tracker.
No, just the mayor has a power to declare a brief recess.
Give the mayor
Okay, we're back into session. Apologize for that delay. Next up, discussion, okay, presentation and discussion of streets, roads, projections, road tracker. Who's got that?
I'll just kind of introduce real fast. Jill is going to go over the infamous road tracker sheet with you guys. She handed out this big, long Excel spreadsheet. I will remind you all and anyone listening at home that this is not a budget. This is a planning tool that we use to project out major road projects, transportation projects. So this is kind of the tool that we use to let you guys identify when and if you're going to have problems with any transportation revenues and expenditures. As we've been having some conversations about several different projects, taking over Newtown Road, just wanted to show you how any of those decisions are going to impact long-term shortfalls or revenue sources. So I'll turn it over to her. Again, this is a planning tool that we use. It is not a budget, just so you all are aware. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't have a whole lot to say about this. It hasn't changed a ton since the last time I showed it to you, which was just at the last meeting. The only change we really made was we reduced the amount for taking over Newtown because Christina was able to negotiate and get NCDOT to agree to take a portion of it. So we reduced that from a $475,000 liability for us down to 300, which is still being conservative. We might pay less than that, but we would rather do worst case, with NCDOT paying the other portion of it. Other than that, I mean, I guess I would just continue to ask you guys, if you have questions about the roads or this tracker, feel free to let me know. Anything you don't understand or any concerns. This does change often, like literally almost weekly, it will change. And I will also tell you that October 1st, so just next week, we will be getting our first Powell bill allocation. So we'll have a better idea of how much we're actually going to receive this year in Powell bill funds. We tend to just always put what we received the previous year because we have no reason to think we're going to get more. And then when we usually do get a little bit more, and when we do, that becomes our new baseline. And then so the spreadsheet will be adjusted after that first tranche comes in. Obviously, there's a lot of red, but that's because you all are in the middle of making decisions about, you know, the Marvin Loop, that Hunter brought to your attention at the last meeting, that the construction costs are going to be a lot higher than anticipated to finish it and things like that. So, and then we've also got the additional roundabout on here that we have. Actually, we've got 2 roundabouts on here. Again, this is worst case scenario. You guys may decide not to pursue a roundabout in the future, but I've got them both on here because we can't plan and you guys can't make decisions unless you see the impact it's making on the roads budget. So,
Yeah.
Jill, is there-
And I appreciate that because I really want to see kind of worst-case scenarios and then we kind of work
Backwards.
back from those, you know, because those will help to really kind of inform those decisions. But, you know, even seeing, you know, all the minor things, curbs and gutters and, you know, salt for a couple of times, you know, when we have storms in the winter or, you know, different things like that. You know, I appreciate that the list is as comprehensive as we've kind of gotten it to at this point.
Jill, so I'm looking at the Powell tracker. Is there a way you can project this live so we can make some changes? Or
I would have to just sit and plug my laptop into
Okay,
the
so
HDMI.
just real quick, so because I'm looking at 26, 27, and we've got the $300,000 for Newtown Road takeover. That's in your tracker sheet, if you guys can see that. It's like row, I don't know, it's the 3rd row over, it's the third, third column, and then it's the 3rd row down in the expense section. That's in there, and they're showing no shortfall in next year for 26, 27. With that Newtown takeover, there's actually a surplus of $674,000. Is that accurate?
The 674,000 next year is what would be left after we essentially drain, well, no, I'm sorry. It's important to note up above that that would depend on us getting fee in lieu, which is up in yellow, that's not guaranteed, and it would depend on us getting shortfall funding, which is also not guaranteed.
With CRTPO, the application that would be making for the loop.
Yeah. So if we don't get, and that's $1 million right there. So if we don't get it, then that means we're going to essentially have only $800,000 in that additional revenue balance, which means it would not be enough to cover the $1.1 million shortfall in Powell bill, and we will be in the red there as well.
Okay.
So,
And then I also see, real quick, the GTSP is in there too for the, looks like, for the next year. So 27, 28 is when the first round of GTSP comes in. And that, for anyone listening at home, that is for the loop, the finishing of the loop that is not a part of the current project that we're working on now with the STIP grant with CRTPO.
Quick note on
That's-
that, you might be 1 year too forward. I think those might need to be moved back 1 year.
So my point, though, is you have that project in the Powellville tracker sheet
yes,
now.
I have the Great Trails grant, the Marvin Loop Section 3 is in here, and we have the costs that we know of, which is the $491,000, that's the village match, in order to be eligible to get the $491 from that state grant. And then we also have as a placeholder, again, worst case scenario, these are just as a planning tool. You'll see we have an additional $400,000 earmarked in fiscal year 29 to 30, because Austin had mentioned at the last time we discussed this loop and the grant that the grant and our match still likely wouldn't be enough to completely finish the loop, and there would be an additional portion. So whether we go for another grant for that $400,000 that I have plugged in right now in fiscal year 29 to 30 is yet to be determined, but it's on there. And that's the other thing, is having these costs on here gives us an idea of what grants we could potentially go looking for that we would need.
So just for clarification, though, I know Hunter's still working on trying to find some cost savings on his project. He's still working on trying to secure some additional funding. There's always the option, just as a reminder, there's always the option to basically not do the full portions of the project that Hunter's working on. We can do as much as the money that we have allows, and then we can come back and fill that in as things go. So if you look at these sheets and you determine that these numbers just aren't working for us, there's always the opportunity that we can put some things down on his project that we would come back to later if grant funding became available at a later date. So just noting that. Again, we did try to plug in all the numbers here for the projects that you all are discussing, so that can help guide some of your decisions in some of the larger projects, like, taking over Newtown Road. You have an item on your agenda this afternoon that is for the resolution of the GTSP. So that's plugged in here. Just wanted you all to see kind of the future implications to some of the decisions you're making today.
The other thing I just want to note, Christina, is it's sort of like a yes and no. We love those. Yes, we do have potentially the option of not finishing every part of what we're already involved in, but Hunter is still trying to get clarification on whether, if we don't completely finish it, if we would be asked to return any CRTPO funds that we had received under that grant for design and engineering and right-of-way acquisition. If we don't move forward with the construction completely, then would they require us to give any of that money back? That is a question mark right now. We will have an answer before we ask you guys to make a decision about that, of course, but we need to keep that in mind as well.
Thanks for that clarity.
Does anyone have any questions for me?
I was trying to look on here real fast, sorry. I know the council had decided when we created the capital reserve for the Waxhaw bonds Grove, Waxhaw Marvin roundabout to have that, for that short amount of time to fund that project. Do you have the revenues in here projected to continue, or do they shut off once that project is done?
So that is on a separate tracker where I'm tracking capital projects because we've made that roundabout a capital. And I believe on that one, the revenue on my tracker continues based on conversations that I had with council during the budget adoption process, where we discussed the possibility of additional roundabouts being requested, especially at Joe Kerr Road, Joe Carr. So I do have it continuing to go forward until council decides that they're no longer going to pursue additional roundabouts, or that they are, if a council decides that they don't want to allocate that penny anymore, or they want to change the amount, then I'll change it then. But for now, I have it continuing to go.
But those revenues are not reflected in this spreadsheet.
Nope, they are,
But I will note the expenditures are for future roundabouts, so.
for the future roundabouts, yes, but for Bonds Grove, no.
Okay. I guess the point that we need to look at, though, is if the revenues are coming in and they're not going to stop, then we need to reflect that for them to pick back up in here so that the numbers kind of shift slightly. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Sorry, I should have noted that before now, so my fault.
I mean, I think that would change these numbers pretty.
It'll change them starting where you start seeing the expenditures on the two, which is fiscal year 30, 31. So you're still going to have the gap from 27, 28 to 29, 30 that we've got to figure out, but you might see some shifts from 30.
Is the Bonds Grove, Waxhaw Marvin roundabout on here?
It's not.
It
It's
is
in a
not.
separate capital. So we put that capital reserve.
Are the expenses on here?
No,
So none of it's on here?
nope, it's on a separate spreadsheet where I track grants and capital projects.
Okay, so I agree with Christina. Like, once we've paid for that, and we're still allocating that one penny, and it could be more at some point, or less at some point, should be reflected on this too.
So,
Well, I think to Jill's point, she doesn't have that definitive yet, so that's probably why she hasn't included it in here, but it is a conversation that I think you or a future council will have when that time comes.
Yeah.
But so maybe we can put that in here for now to show.
To at least show that we've got some revenue coming in.
so I do have, starting in fiscal year 29 to 30, I do show continuing a 1 cent roundabout allocation of revenue. Of course, I don't have anything to offset it on this separate tab that I'm keeping because we currently have it listed on here. But an easy fix for that is I'm more than happy to plug that revenue back in on this sheet starting in fiscal year 29 to 30 until or unless we do definitely decide that we're going to modify the current capital project reads Bonds Grove Roundabout. So we would have to amend it or open a new capital project for the next roundabout and transfer or roll over any leftover funds, which I don't know that there would be with shortfalls, but if there were, we would roll those funds over into the next roundabout capital, and then at that point, I would remove the revenue from here, but I would also remove the expenses. So I'll go ahead and plug the revenue back in so that we have it, and it is a more accurate depiction on here of, yeah, I see the point. If you're going to have if we're going to have the expenses on here, let's have that revenue back on here until we pull it off.
I mean, and I mean, I get why it's not on there, and that also makes sense, but I think once we get further down, fiscal years, makes sense to at least show that we've got some revenue coming in for some of these costs. The estimated emergency repairs, I see the actual for 24, 25 is $2,700 or $2,800, and then we've got like 30,000, nothing, 50, 60, 70, 80. I'm assuming that's just a guesstimate.
It is. I mean, that's just assuming things are going to start failing quicker and more frequently, so I bumped that up to account for more occurrences plus inflation.
Okay. Is there a reason we skipped 26, 27?
No. Not really sure why. We can, I mean, that's going to be minuscule.
I'll plug 40 in. It looks like something might have gotten deleted or something weird happened there. I'll put that back in.
I'm just looking because, and again, I want everybody, this is worst case scenario. This is, hopefully I feel very confident that we're gonna find more money other places, and I'm very confident that we're not gonna spend everything that we have going on right here.
Well, when we tried to be very diligent when we were projecting some of these numbers to include inflation, I mean, like if you look at, for example, the drainage and stormwater, or storm sewer, you'll see we have a bigger influx currently because I'm trying to get a lot of things accomplished in the next couple of years there, but then you'll see it kind of backs down and then goes back up.
Yeah.
Reason being is if we can address all of the issues that we've identified today, you're naturally going to have a decrease for a couple of years until you start seeing an increase. So, but you'll also see, like on greenways and trails, now this is not where we have construction dollars earmarked, but this is just minor repairs. If we need some piping or some new material placed down, we've got a very minor amount of money in there for those maintenance costs. And then you'll also see that we incorporated some of the engineering studies that we that corroborates with our policy for making sure we have PCS scoring done every 5 years. And we've tried to include that in for some of the stormwater and curbing and all that stuff as well. Not curbing, but stormwater. So you'll see some natural increases just based on us trying to be conservative.
I've also accounted for the next reval, which should be fiscal year 29 to 30, based on the every 4 years that Union County has said they're going to stick to that schedule. So when you see the value of 1 penny in fiscal year 29 to 30, it's projected to be about 100,000 higher than what a penny is currently, and that's because of the just the natural annexations and then the couple new neighborhoods that you have under development right now, and then finally the reval in 29 to 30, where we don't know what that's going to look like. I don't believe we estimated it to be as high as it was on this past one, but we did kind of find some middle ground. It's just an estimate and a placeholder. But if you're wondering why the amounts look so much higher, that's why. And then I'll do it again in fiscal year 33 to 34, I think we'll see.
Jill, where, I don't even see the pen.
You don't have it because I just put it back in after we were talking about it. So I'm just warning you, when I come back next meeting with this for you, you'll be able to see those revenues, the change I just made. And I just didn't want you to be surprised and say, well, why is that number so high? It's because I'm already planning ahead that a penny is going to be worth a lot more in 4 years because of a reval. Now, you all may choose at any point to do less than a penny, but because your current directive to me is 1 cent for the roundabout, that's what I'm going to continue to do until I'm told otherwise, from a planning standpoint. Make sense?
So the reason we brought this forward to you all is because you're making bigger decisions, and we want to make sure we're projecting out, especially as you're making these big decisions. We've had conversations about Newtown Road and taking that over here frequently. Just want to make sure those conversations, y'all haven't changed on that, because we're moving forward at a staff level to make some things happen. So that's plugged in here. Wanted you to see that so that if we need to stall on the standpoint of what staff is doing, we can take a step back on that. But secondly, you do have a request in the unfinished business for adoption of a resolution for the GTSP. That's plugged in here as well, so you can see the implications of those decisions. If you want to wait for Hunter to get back on some of the cost savings and some of the answers that we might have on potential cuts or paybacks that would be required, if any, on the CRTPO STIP project, we can go into those details before you make those decisions, but we wanted to make sure, full transparency, you guys have all this here in front of you before you make those decisions. Some of the other things that haven't been discussed, you can always delay certain things that are in your power to delay. If you look at the second row down in expenses of NCDOT roads acceptance and preventative maintenance. We have that stretched out every other year, as well as preventative maintenance every other year. They kind of offset each other. You can always, push a couple of those back here or there. If you need to buy some more time, it's obviously going to compound issues later on down the road, but that is an option to look at, deferred maintenance, so to say. I'm not saying that's what you want to do, but it's an option.
Well, I think this is a great tool, and Jill, great job on putting this together and really kind of using this as a living, breathing document. But there's so many questions that go along in this. One would be, if you take over Newtown and you take over Waxhaw Marvin, do you need the roundabout down there because you're going to reduce the speed limit down to, and I'm just throwing out hypotheticals. You reduce the speed limit down to 25, and do you have that much traffic that warrants a roundabout? I don't know. I'm just throwing out hypotheticals. If you don't take over these roads and they continue at 45, obviously you're going to need the roundabouts because more and more people are going to traverse these main arteries. But I mean, you look at these and you start talking about preventive maintenance for future councils that come in and go, no, let's just push it off. Well, yeah, you can push this off, but somewhere down here, you better start allocating for funds to take care of what you neglected for 5 years because you didn't want to do preventive maintenance. Then you need to add a bigger chunk of money down here. It doesn't go away. The problems of the roads and these are problems that we inherited. These aren't problems that we come up with. And we only get so much from Powell bill funds. That's not drastically increasing. People talk about cutting taxes and doing all this, and we're not increasing taxes, whatever. You could say no to that all you want. I think a lot of people have backed themselves into a very dark corner that they can't come out of because of saying what they will and they won't do as far as taxes are concerned. This is real. It doesn't go away. And you are going to have to address these items that are on here. Thank you, Jill, for having this. And maybe somewhere down the road, someone might take the initiative after it's too late. Maybe January, February, March. Someone will look at this and go, oh, man, reality is here. And some of those things I said, boy, they don't add up.
I just wanted to add too that at the beginning of this fiscal year, I attended a Union County Chamber event where they brought in NCDOT officials and board members in county, and lots of municipal leaders were invited to go, and we specifically discussed this road issue and the problems. And for anyone listening out there who suggests that we just give roads back as if it's that easy or that it's even possible, that's one thing I've heard. But the other thing I just want to remind people is that NCDOT owned roads are notoriously in bad shape, and it takes a really long time to get any preventative maintenance or repair work done on those roads. And so while it might seem like I would rather NCDOT pay or take on the liability and the expense of these roads, I just want people to have a little bit of a sort of a realistic picture that it's probably going to take even longer, and it's going to be less quality if that project or those repairs and those potholes or the repaving or resurfacing, if it even happens at all, which there's certain homeowners in this town that have been waiting 10 plus years to have their roads done by NCDOT. It just keeps getting pushed. And they need to remember also, every time there's a natural disaster in our state, like Helene, where major roads and bridges get washed out, your neighborhood street full of potholes and cracks is going to get pushed to the very bottom of the pile because that is a much larger concern, and there's a limited pot of money. In fact, I would say after that meeting, there is a negative pot of money at NCDOT. They have billions of dollars of road projects and repairs to do, and they don't have that much money. They're in a huge deficit. So that is not a magic wand to say, well, I wish NCDOT just could take the roads and let's let them pay for it. You will be lucky to get them to do anything. And people need to understand that before they think that that's a fix, because they'll be very upset at the condition of their roads if they leave it to NCDOT to do, in my opinion, based on what I've learned.
And they're transparent about that.
Yeah, they are.
They're not blowing smoke at us and going, oh, no, we'll get to them. When the hurricane hit, in our CRTPO meeting, they're like, the tranche of money or the bucket of money that was there,
Gone.
it's gone. Because it's going to take care of that. We identified that. That was a personal effect for us in Marvin because of the roundabout. Remember? The hurricanes in the Outer Banks. They had to replace all those roads out there. So they had no money for our roundabout, which delayed it, and people were yelling at us, why don't you put it in? Well, we can't put it in because we don't have DOT signed up to do it.
And there's
So-
limited FEMA money everyone's fighting for as well. So you're talking about very limited buckets of money, everyone's fighting for it. And if you have the ability to pay for this yourselves, you will get better quality, you'll get it done on a more routine maintenance schedule, and you'll be much more satisfied with your roads. You might not like it, but that's the end, that's the truth.
Well, this, great job again.
You're welcome.
This is a reality, and hopefully people will take the time to understand and know what these numbers mean and the impact of them when they start making blanket statements of, we're not increasing taxes, we're not doing this, and it's a dangerous path. And until you have this information and you fully understand it, as it ties to all the other budgetary items that this government is responsible for, like it or not, it's going to be an eye-opening.
Again, 12 years ago, when I was in front of this and the former council, none of them are here, talked about getting into the roads, we had to be at 5 cents because of POW. I told them, it's on record, you can go look it up, and they have video or clips of it, that I was against it. And because, especially because at 5 cents, there was no way that there were gonna, the little that I know about construction, there was no way we were gonna do it for 5 cents. And as I talk to other community leaders, they tell me what they have and what they did, and then I ask what their tax rate is, which is crazy. I think I was told, and correct me if I'm wrong, for those that do roads, are responsible for roads in the POW bill, we are 12 cents less than the closest one that's doing roads right now, because we
I
is that
think you're
correct?
right. I think the closest tax rate for those that own roads is about 17 cents, and we are at 5.
We're at 5.63.
So yes.
So I've kind of come around as you learn how things go, and I learned a lot more in the 12 years about what the state can and can't do. If you want something nice, this is a personal thing too. If you want something nice, you have to own it. You cannot rely on someone else to take care of it, because they're going to give you every excuse. And some of them are very legit. You know, these hurricanes, I mean, they devastated the Blue Ridge Mountains, and there is billions of dollars that need to be funded in there. So we have nice neighborhoods. You know, I was talking to someone who's like, well, having a nice neighborhood includes having nice roads that drive up to those nice homes that we have and stuff. So, so I've sort of changed my tune, but at some point, to your point, we have to address this through some sort of increase of funding, whether it's inflation or just being able, in fairness, you pointed out earlier, that we're all paying the same tax. We should all have the same service. It's unfair that certain neighborhoods have to go to the state and they tell us get in line.
Well, and I was talking to a resident this week about the tax rate, and, you know, we had a conversation about the fact that even at 5.63 cents, we currently have 1 full cent of that allocated to saving for the roundabout and potentially future roundabouts. You also have 1 cent of that, which is almost exactly, slightly less than what you need to cover the 2 deputies, which is another thing. So those are both things that Marvin residents asked for, the roundabout and the deputies. So if you take those 2 cents away, you're now at 3.63, and that's what you guys are using to fund the entire village, and that includes your roads. That's everything, every dollar of that, with a little bit of savings for capital needs. Mhm.
Scale, we go out to bid for something, that's why we sometimes don't even get people to reply, because the projects are so small, because that's all we can afford.
Mhm.
So it's, you know, it's a delicate, you know, line
Yeah.
we follow. We don't want to increase taxes. Keep in mind, we're paying the same taxes as everyone else, and it's pretty clear what you're presenting out, and even though this could be a worst-case scenario, that we need to start addressing these things.
Well, and it concerns me to think, and would probably scare the bejesus out of me, if I think about what if we hadn't done what we did in the past couple of years of already dedicating that penny, you know? Because if we hadn't done that, that red that we see here now, I'm sure we'd already be facing those shortfalls.
Oh, 100%. You would have to be going out for bonds or financing and taking on debt because you wouldn't have been planning for this and saving and building it up over years to make sure you had the money to do it when it was needed.
So again, that's the reason that we went, instead of going revenue neutral, because again, so everybody is very aware, because we take Powell bill funds, we cannot go below 5 cent. Like, that is our absolute, regardless of what revenue neutral is, we have to stay at 5 cent. Revenue neutral was at 5.163 cent. The reason that we went above that to 5.63 cent is for these roundabouts. Like, these roundabouts and a couple of other little things, but it was mostly for the roundabouts. And if we're not saving for this stuff now, to John's point, these numbers in red would be even scarier than they already are. We are not blaming anybody for this. We are not sticking our head in the sand. We're trying to figure out what to do. We actively work on these road issues every single budget season, every single retreat, and we talk about it throughout the year multiple times. So I just want that to be very clear, that we're not blaming other people for these, as people like to say. We are fully aware of this, and that is why we added the vehicle tag fee. Because if we didn't have that on there, I mean, again, these numbers in red would be even worse. So we are planning, we are trying to save. That is the reason that we went above revenue neutral, to start saving for these big projects that we know are out there, and we do not have the money for it, period.
Yeah, during the budget season, Union County had done their critical intersection survey to residents and gotten feedback about the intersections at Joe Carr, and the residents had, I believe, maybe very favorably had indicated they wanted either improvements, mostly roundabouts.
80% of the people that responded to the county survey wanted roundabouts
Right.
at
So
those critical intersections.
Anyone can go back and listen to those budget work sessions and hear the discussions where I essentially warned that, because I wasn't allocating a full 1 cent to the roundabout capital fund, I was just reserving the same amount that you had done last year, but because of the reval, a penny was now worth more. So I encouraged you all to consider doing a full penny like you had done last year to that, so that you would accelerate the savings and be prepared should you decide to do what the residents indicated they wanted, which was allocate funds to a roundabout somewhere at Joe Carr. So I can tell you that the largest allocation of the half a penny that we went above revenue neutral is going to roundabouts, 100%. The current one and any future ones that we that would choose to do.
And we can't give the roads back.
They won't take them. They won't take them. DOT would laugh at us. They would think we were absolutely crazy. They would just be like, oh yeah, that's hilarious. They're not taking the roads back.
I don't think they want the roads they have. They don't want to take any more.
Not only that, but our residents, over time, when the roads are then getting back to less maintenance and less upkeep, it would turn our residents against us because they've already been investing in those roads now for the last 8 to 10 years, putting preventative maintenance in, and they would be stuck only like we were in a position we were a number of years ago. My neighborhood in particular, Providence Estates, waited almost 30-something years for their roads to get paved, and it was a literal landmine trying to get through our neighborhood roads until the Village of Marvin worked cooperatively with the state to have us assume them, take them over, and part of that was having them redone and brought up to spec. So it's not just, it would be the repercussions of giving it back too, where at that point, we're thrown in with everybody else in the state again, and oftentimes sent to the bottom of the list because now our roads are gonna be in better shape than most of the others.
I also have reason to believe that they're probably looking at the tax rates that municipalities are setting. And when you are really low, because you're conservative and you don't want to have high taxes, that also means that you're relying more on NCDOT for things that you probably could afford to pay for yourself if you weren't so fiscally conservative with your tax rate. And I have to believe that they do take that into account when they're looking at projects in towns. It's sort of like maybe hurting us and pushing us to the bottom of the pile. Can't prove it, but I have an idea that that's probably something that gets looked at as well as what's their tax rate? What are they able to do,
It's interesting.
Well, that's how we've gotten neighborhood roads done, is because we have partnered with NCDOT. It's not like it's not like roads that have been, John's roads, they've been completely redone, like they did the profile mill, went down.
And this was long before I was a councilman,
Yeah.
so there was no undue influence.
Yes, John was not on council when it happened, so he had no decision-making there. None of us have. We go by what our engineers tell us to do. They say, these are the roads that need to be done next. Those are the roads that we do next. So we don't have a say in what roads get done, when they get done. But roads have gotten done because we do partner with NCDOT. It's not NCDOT just coming in and being like, yeah, we'll do the roads. We'll do the roads if you guys do these roads and pay for a portion of them and then take them over. So they're not going to be willing to work with us and partner with us with doing some of these other neighborhood roads if we're not willing to then take them over. So everybody needs to realize that and recognize that these roads will not get done if we are not willing to partner with NCDOT. They may be paying for it. They may be paying for a portion of it. We may be paying for a portion of it. But at the end, their end game is to get them off of their books and into our network of roads, period. People have got to understand that.
Not to throw another curveball, but years ago when they talked about Powell Bill, and whether this is true or not, but I believe it is, that Powell Bill funds are not necessarily guaranteed by the state. It could go away.
Right.
They could revamp the DOT and say, you know what, we're not going to participate in Powell Bill funds. Then what?
Well, the Powell Bill money comes from the federal government, and it's filtered through the state and then dispersed to municipalities. So at any time, if the federal government decides they're not going to contribute to that anymore, then that bucket dries up, and it's not like the state can then say, well, we'll just find a bucket so that our municipalities still get money for roads. It's like, it's nice to have it, but yeah, you can't necessarily depend on anything to not get cut from budgets when people are in deficits, so. Any other questions for me?
Good job, Jill.
I do want to tell you that lunch is here, so should you decide to break, this might be a good time, just so you know.
Call
Real
Jill.
fast, before you move over on this sheet, just wanted to make one point of clarification. We do have a place in the tracker sheet for restorative maintenance. This would be like your major rehab, like the rehab that happened on your subdivision 5 years ago in Heritage Oak, where we dug up the whole road and put that in. So if you notice in probably halfway down, there's a section that says restorative maintenance. we've got 150 for the first year, and then every 3 years, we've got 200, and it goes up. So just so y'all know, that's there.
Joe, quick question. In the last 60 days, how many people have come to you to ask about this spreadsheet?
Two, one with me, one with Christina, and then I've had a couple of conversations with council, and then not really about the spreadsheet, but I have been asked about roads by maybe one other resident. So yeah, not that many.
Okay, that's interesting.
And that's a great question. That's a great question. But they'll believe the information they get from next door. But they won't, two people. That says a lot.
Thanks, Jill, good job.
Thank you. Are we gonna keep going or work through lunch, or are we gonna take a break?
Just keep going until we get to new business. Some of these aren't gonna take very long.
Okay. Next up, we have consider adoption of resolution accepting the NC Division of Parks and Recreation Great Trails State Program. Why is this not working? Okay. Great Trails State Program grant for $491,925 for the acquisition and construction of Marvin Loop Greenway segment, S1B.
So, bringing this back from the last meeting, I did ask your questions to the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. I did put your answers in the memo here. Environmental review does have to be finished by January. If not, the grantor will check on the viability of the project. We can only use the funds listed in the project, for the items listed in the project budget that we submitted with the application. There is an amendment process for that if the project needs to change, but that has to go through a formal approval process again. Once we have a contract, we have 45 days to sign. We can't spend any grant funds until the contract's fully executed on both sides. The project was submitted for acquisition and construction. They are not willing to let us dedicate those funds for design and engineering. So those for design and engineering, we would be on our own for funding that. And we very likely will not be able to shift to address funding shortfalls with phase 2 of the Marvin Loop.
So the first step that we have to do is do the environmental review, and that has to be completed by January.
You need to adopt this resolution, and then you would need to do the environmental review by January.
So,
yes.
one point for clarification, and I have not read these emails in quite some time. I don't think that it is definitive that it has to be done by January. I think they would prefer that it is, but we can always come back. If you want to delay this until the next meeting, I'll dig into it some more, but I don't think it's 150% confirmed that we have to do it by January.
What the grantor has told me is that if it is not done in January, there is a process that the project will go through to determine viability.
Okay, that's fine, but, okay, so we have to do the environmental review, should be completed by January.
That is their goal date, yes.
Okay, so we need to get that done first before we can formally accept this program grant, because let's say we run into an environmental issue, whatever it might be, then this isn't going to be viable. So can we wait until we get the environmental review back before we sign the resolution?
No, you need to formally accept the grant first, because part of the environmental review process is submitting to state agencies.
Okay,
So if you don't-
but wait just a second, because I think I heard you say that the engineering and design is not included in this funding.
Correct.
Okay, then we don't need to do anything at this point until we can figure out what that is, because the numbers that we've got projected in this tracker sheet do not include that. And if we look at, for example, if we look at Hunter's project that he's working on, that engineering contract was $600,000, if I remember correctly. 500, close enough. So on top of what's listed here, we need to throw in another.
So when is our drop dead date for signing this resolution and not lose out on this grant?
The only thing I would say is that if we are trying to have environmental review done by January, we need to have this done so we can give the vendor ample time to do the review, which I would say would be at least 60 days minimum.
But we don't even have a contract with the granting agency. That's what's really confusing to me.
The granting agency does not give you a contract until you've completed environmental review. You don't get a contract until environmental review is complete.
So then why do we need to sign the resolution until the environmental review's done? Can't we just have the environmental review done and then see what it comes back at and then sign this?
If you want to go ahead and make that step, I think I guess you can. I don't see necessarily a problem with doing it that way, but if we haven't formally notified them that we've accepted the grant,
So
When
why
do we
don't-
have to do that by?
I mean, it has to be done by January. I don't have a direct deadline for adopting a resolution. I have a goal date for completing environmental review.
Well, I would much rather, this is just me, and I'm just talking, sorry, I kind of took over, sorry. But if we have to do an environmental review, and it has to be completed by January, it could be January 31st, then why don't we do that, and then be like, yep, we're good, we've figured out funding, we've got a better handle on this, and then we can sign the resolution and do that.
Well, if y'all can give, I mean, nothing's gonna, 2 weeks is not gonna do anything. If y'all can give me 2 weeks until the next meeting and let me look into this some more, I maybe can have some better
Okay.
direction. I feel really uneasy about adopting a resolution, knowing that we potentially have another tranche of
I agree.
$300,000 to $500,000, and you guys are taking action without clear direction. So let me,
I agree
if y'all
with
don't
that.
mind tabling both number three.
Can we just pause it until you guys have more information and not necessarily table it until a specific meeting?
Yeah.
Like, you guys
Yeah.
do some more research, is that okay? Are you
Yeah.
guys okay with that?
I'm okay with that if you guys are.
And have you had that or what she's saying, give that an explanation to them, the grantor, and saying, hey, does it on the surface make sense that we would accept a grant without knowing what the environmental is going to come back as?
So you guys would just I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you asked a question, I interrupted, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's.
We just, for procedurally, we would need to table 3, 4, and 5.
That's what
Okay.
Jamie just looked at me and goes, we
Okay.
gotta do, okay, so we're just gonna table unfinished business, item 3, 4, and 5, until we have further information.
I would ask
Clarification.
for a motion to defer consideration. That's the formal term for
Okay, so
tabling.
I'm gonna make a motion to defer consideration for unfinished business 3, 4, and 5. Is that good? Until we get more information and some more clarity.
Okay. Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Do we do number 6 too, since it's got the GTSP in there?
Number 6, well, actually it does, Jill. I'm not sure why that's in there, it shouldn't. Your operational budget amendment for GTSP, you put that in capital, so it shouldn't be in operating. Number 6 has the term GTSP in the description, but is that an error? Because you put the GTSP engineering in the capital project, so it shouldn't be in operational.
I think one of them takes the money from unassigned fund balance for the match and moves it.
Gotcha.
And then the other creates the authorization for the total spending with the $50,000 from unassigned fund balance.
Okay. You don't have to table that one, because she's taking it from fund balance, so she could just take it, and it's just going to sit somewhere until she puts it. So you don't have to, but you can.
All right, so moving forward, just go into that right now. All right, we want to consider, next up, we have consider adoption of ordinance amending the general fund budget and assigned fund balance, future capital needs for general government, public works, parks, and GTSP.
So normally this would have been on consent. The only reason it's not is because I knew you all were going to be having a discussion about the great, I always want, Great Trail State Program. So that's the only reason why it's on there and not on consent. But if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer. It's pretty straightforward.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion to adopt the ordinance amending the general fund budget and assigned fund balance, future capital needs for general government, public works, parks, and GTSP.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Finally, in unfinished business, we have discussion and consideration of curb gutter and sidewalk inventory and repairs.
That would be me. At the last council meeting, you all went over the sidewalk repairs, the inventory that staff put together. They went back and revisited these neighborhoods and made sure we had each, listed in each category. It's a little confusing because in the curbing section, we only looked at village streets, but in the sidewalk section, we looked at all village neighborhoods. So that's why there's a little bit of confusion. That information is provided in your agenda packet for curbing and sidewalks, so it shows you what subdivisions were reviewed, and it also shows you the scorings of the general areas of where they determined hazardous cracks that needed to be reconciled. So all that's in your agenda packet. Wanted you guys to have a chance to look it over and see if there's anything that you saw we may have missed. Total costs were around $77,000 for both curbs and sidewalks. In our budget for this fiscal year, we had $30,000 budgeted for sidewalks, so it's right on target with the sidewalks that we need to get done. But while we were at it, we wanted to go ahead and address some of these curbing issues. That's approximately $40,000, and then we have some hauling off and disposal removal. We do have $30,000 budgeted in the transportation for emergency services, emergency purposes. We could pull some of that curbing from. I don't want to pull all of it because I do want to, keep into account if we need to fill any potholes or any curb and gutter or any stormwater gutter infrastructure damages that we may have from emergency standpoint. So we do have a little bit of a difference of what we have budgeted versus what we need. Wanted to just kind of feel your thoughts on that, see if you guys are interested in doing any of the curbing or maybe half of it. The curbing is not a sheer emergency hazardous issue that needs to be made, but it is something that we feel like could be done sooner than later so it doesn't prevent future cracks and future damage. It's going to cause issues down the road.
I mean, we've got $30,000 for the sidewalk. We've got some estimated emergency repairs that we can pull some from. We've got drainage and stormwater maybe that we can pull some from. I mean, I feel like if we've gone out and done all this work, like we should just go ahead and get everything fixed, get everything up to standard, and then we're not like, oh wait, did we do that one last time? Are we doing it this time? I mean, we're missing some money, but it looks like we've got a couple places we can pull it from.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, we've got to pull another $40,000 to $50,000 from fund balance or from reserve for streets. So that's worst case. Best case is we work together and we try to find what we think is reasonable to stretch us out through the end of the year on pulling from emergency, pulling from drainage, and various buckets that we can pull from. But I wanted you guys to make decisions based on worst case, which is us pulling 40 to 50 from fund balance to make it happen.
Again, this is stuff that needs to get done. Yes, it's not going to fall apart, but it's going to deteriorate more, and at that point, it could cost more and cause other problems down the road. Sidewalks, obviously, we have to do, but the curb and gutter, I mean, we might as well just go ahead and just check it off the list.
Well, you got safety issues, especially with sidewalk.
Yeah,
So
let's say, sidewalks have to do.
Sidewalks
That's done, but the curb, I mean,
Well, and we'll also save on mobilization and demobilization with them already being out.
Yeah.
So if we did the curbing next year, it's probably going to be a little bit more. So if you guys are in a consensus that we go ahead and do both of them, we'll scratch our notepads on the finance end, figure out what we can do, bring back a budget amendment, but we'll go ahead and do a notice to proceed on the vendor to go ahead and get those things accomplished so we're not faced up against weather issues coming into, the fall into winter.
I think so.
Is there any objections to that?
Nope.
Okay.
Do you need a
Wayne?
motion?
No.
All right, so I'll make a motion.
Do you need a motion? I
Oh,
thought
do you
wanted
need a
us to
motion?
make
No?
budget.
No, because y'all will formally do it in a budget amendment, but we
Okay.
will proceed with noticing the vendor.
Okay. All right.
All right. We're going to take a quick lunch break and then,
We'll work through it, like we'll go get food and.
okay,
Okay.
yep,
All right,
we'll
good?
do that and work
Declare a
through it.
brief recess?
Yeah, declare.
Oh,
It's declared.
I need a motion to make it,
Just
okay.
declare it.
I'm declaring that we are taking a lunch break at this time. Thank you.
we back in?
I think so.
Austin, are we back in? All right, can I go back?
Go back to what?
Can I go back to when we were talking with Jill about the road tracker? Just really quick, I just want to make a comment, because Jamie was asking if anybody from the public came in. And just to clarify, the one person that came in to speak with Jill in person was my husband. So just for those out there, he was the one that came in, just so people understand, because I think Jamie was going down a different road with that. So he just wanted to understand the road tracker a little bit better. Okay, now we can go back to new business.
All right. That's where we're at right now. Okay, new business. We have discussed and consider entering contract with Kimley Horn for creating a comprehensive plan and updating the Parks and Greenway Master Plan at a cost not to exceed $125,000 and allow manager to execute the contract.
So at the August work session, you guys awarded the project to Kimley Horn for the comprehensive plan and Bowman for the Parks and Greenway Master Plan update, as Bowman was the only firm that submitted for that project. You asked staff to basically go and negotiate the contracts and look at potential alternatives. I believe Bowman came in for the Greenway plan at a pretty high price, so we looked at Kimley Horn, since they were already doing a majority of the same kind of overlapping work, to add the scope from the RFQ for that update into this. They were able to do so, and so in front of you is basically the letter of agreement and scope of work and the cost for the project to do the comprehensive plan and the Greenway, the Parks and Greenway Master Plan updates for a total of $125,000.
And I'll just say real fast, we did try to negotiate with Bowman, or Bowman, however you say it. We budgeted $50,000 for the Greenway Master Plan. It was just an update. The lowest, after we began negotiations, the lowest they got down to was $63,000, and that was really reducing the scope immensely. The original RFP quote came in at $188,000. So after we got those quotes, I initiated conversation with Kimley Horn to incorporate the Greenway Master Plan in. They came back around 153-ish, somewhere in that area. We were able to negotiate them back down to 125, including the Greenway. So we've definitely knocked off some funding. We're still about $25,000 over budget. I'll have to prepare staff to do a budget amendment at a later date to come up with that difference, or we can earmark that $25,000 into a future year. I would rather go ahead and have it ready today so that we have the funding available to finish this project in this fiscal year. But again, it's $25,000 over what we budgeted, but it's substantially cheaper than what we initially came back, the quotes came back as.
Now, I think it was at my behest when I mentioned, does it make sense to ask, the other folks that are doing the master plan to do that? And my thinking was, though, is that specifically, in addition to hopefully saving us money, that it would also create some additional synergies, Can you speak a little bit to that as to whether that was part of, their submittal and what they might have said, how they think that can kind of fit in better?
So when we initially met with Kimley Horn, like I said, at that time, it was just specifically on the comprehensive plan scope. And to go over that, we did mention to them about the Parks and Greenway Master Plan and an update in a different firm that was selected for that. Basically, what they were kind of, suggesting at that time was making sure, clear identification and information that these are, two separate plans or two separate projects, and on top of still trying to coordinate the public involvement of that, so that we're trying to make sure it was synergy on those plans if it was two different firms. Now it's all with one firm, so you're going to have that. I think, I can't remember, the two ways we discussed doing this is we can still keep the Parks and Greenway Master Plan update as part of as its separate plan as it is now, but it obviously will still be referenced and mentioned in the comprehensive plan, or you put all those updates like the recommendations and task and implementation goals derive from the updates as a chapter with itself into this, if that makes sense. So you're still going to have that overlap, and having one firm leading it all, I do think makes it easier. And we would just have to, when they're doing their public engagement, they're the consultant, they're going to make sure that they're getting the information for what portions of the plan and the scope that they're doing the meeting for at that time, if that makes sense. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. I will say that the attorney has reviewed this. There was a few minor comments, but in short, what staff is asking for is for you guys to approve the agreement and the scope and the funds, and authorize the manager to execute the agreement upon final attorney revisions, review, and approval, where then we can get this thing executed within the next week and hit the ground running. Kimley Horn is planning on basically, once you guys approve it and we get that contract executed, to start the process.
And how long are we expecting that entire process to take?
So ideally, the way this is set out, it is a very, very condensed kind of timeline, trying to get this done, at least the majority of the data collection and the bulk of the plan done around March of next year, within probably adoption anywhere between April and June, maybe a little after, but looking at late spring, early summer adoption of the plan in total.
And anytime you look at these things where we have to outsource planning and, not planning, but, these types of tasks and so forth, there's always the wonder of, well, geez, isn't there a way that we can do these things internally, And just to understand, what are the resources that they give us above and beyond from an expertise standpoint, things of that nature?
You have a third party is one of the, I think one of the biggest things. You have guys, you have a consulting firm that this is their profession. They have done a lot of plans in North Carolina and specifically in Union County. So, in regards to the public engagement and involvement portion of the planning process, like in developing any type of comprehensive or master plan, they're the professionals at it. So they also know how to discuss that with the public. And furthermore, like on a capacity level, like having a third party kind of do this, they're taking the information and stuff received during, from the survey, from the public engagement forums that we will have as part of this plan project, and taking that and then developing the recommendations that lead then to the implementation and action items for staff, council, and the appointed boards to kind of carry out.
So part of it is really just to make sure you have a somewhat neutral arbiter, as you develop these plans, so that the recommendations that end up coming from it to council and so forth, are as informed as possible.
Every single municipality that I know of, like I said, most plans are not going to be done in-house. And it comes down to staff time. It comes down to, once again, they have transportation planner. They have all kinds of different resources on their staff that will then be a part of their project team.
That we don't have as
Correct.
expertise. Gotcha.
On top of the data that they will be getting, is stuff like we can somewhat get, but at the same time, like they have more resources on that end to get the most accurate data on population, demographic trends, and all that such.
Thank you.
Are we able to pick and choose out of the, I'm looking at the cost estimates and things, does it mean we have to do all of these, or could we select from them, or that's what they're presenting to us at that price?
What do you mean?
Like, there's a whole list of different things, project initiation and management, 8600, or community assessment. Is there anything you see in there that is essential or maybe not essential that we could eliminate?
I think all of that goes into the whole, like I said, the plan process. We did kind of, like I said, scrap some of the, we kept all the public engagement. I believe there's 2 specific, open house / forums that they will have on top of one, pop-up event, at the tree lighting or the trick or treat in the park, for example. But once again, we want to have that community and public participation a part of this. But the rest of it, just like I said, it's kind of straightforward of getting all those components of the plan that we're looking for into one document. So I don't see any areas where to cut out. Yeah.
I think that's why it says comprehensive.
Yeah.
I think if you pull one out, it's not, you're missing something, and it's,
And what we did to save costs, because if, in their original RFQ proposal, once again, we did have all firms provide just a cost estimate based off of the outline that we put in the RFQ. However, once again, cost was not associated with the firms that we selected, because Kimley Horn was, I think, right in the middle, actually. They weren't the cheapest, they weren't the most expensive. But I want to say their cost estimate for that was $196. So during our initial meeting to begin the contract negotiations, we kind of discussed, there were things in the RFQ that, yes, we wanted, but maybe we don't necessarily need, or we already kind of have done through another way. For example, was proposing intersection improvements. Well, we just did the critical intersection design for 2 of the intersections, but still pulling that plan and that information and getting it into this document is kind of was the intent. And so it's that's ways that we have already looked to save money of using stuff that's been recently adopted or partnering with the county and other agencies to still build off of that base, and they're just not starting from scratch.
further questions or comments?
Anybody got more questions for Hunter?
Just gonna ask.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion to enter into a contract with Kimley Horn for creating a comprehensive plan and updating the Parks and Greenway Master Plan at a cost not to exceed $125,000, and allow manager to execute the contract contingent upon village attorney review, and authorize staff to prepare a budget amendment of $25,000 from fund balance.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, we have discuss and consider adoption of resolution of intent, closing the roads within this Winmore subdivision, and fixing date of the public hearing.
I believe I mentioned this at the previous meeting during planners update. So if you guys recall, Winmore, ever since we claimed their bond, has had conversations of potentially wanting to keep their roads privately maintained so they can install an access gate at the front of their subdivision. This has been about a 2-year process. We did, based off of the HOA taking time to submit all this, we did formally accept the roads at the August council meeting. However, once again, this process basically is that all 12 property owners have signed the petition, and this petition is basically to relinquish the roads back to them for them to privately maintain and the village not maintain those roads. And so the first step in the process is to basically the council to adopt this resolution of intent stating that you have an intent to consider closing or abandoning these roads per se, which then schedules a public hearing, which we have slated for the November 10th meeting. And after this resolution is adopted, if you guys choose to proceed, we'll then have to notify the newspaper. We have to run a notice 4 consecutive weeks, and we notify all property owners that live in the subdivision and about the public hearing and the intent to close the road, and go from there.
Was this a subdivision that, if I recall, there may have been issues with the developer closing out some of the issues and not being around any longer, and then we as a village invested some money and effort in order to rectify some of those situations? And if that's the case, should we be reimbursed if we were to turn that back over?
So we did do a bond claim to finish the improvements of those roads. It started about, like I said, 3 or 4 years ago. Those improvements were completed last year. There were some overages. We did have a bond reimbursement agreement with the HOA. I'll have to go back and read that language because I do think there was language specifically in that bond agreement that if the HOA were to request this and the council approve the roads to be relinquished back to them, that any overages that were paid to complete those improvements specifically on the roads themselves would be reimbursed back to the village. I'll have to get that language directly from that agreement, but that would be a part of their consideration. Like I said, today you're not voting on essentially anything other than you guys have an intent to consider this at that November meeting, and then I will work with chaplains to get that information, make sure the HOA is aware, and then all that will be presented during the public hearing.
I think they just want this to allow a gate.
Yeah, that is the main reason. With this being a one ingress egress neighborhood and 12 property owners, I mean, once again, our policy requires all 100% of the subdivision to sign this. They did obtain all 12 property owner signatures. They have went ahead and amended their CC&Rs to where it states that they will be responsible for maintaining the roads, and they have gotten a plat, I think I included in your packets, that's showing basically removing that it's a public right-of-way being maintained by the village and it will be maintained by the HOA.
Because they had started this process, I don't know, a couple of years ago and went ahead and put some, I guess, part of the gate structure in the road before it had been approved. It didn't look like it had enough stacking distance of what we require from where they put it. Is accurate, not accurate?
So if you're talking about if the road, so basically, once again, their intent's to take over the roads to be privately maintained so they can install a gate. If you guys approve that, like as in approve this right-of-way abandonment, then they can then proceed with installing a gate, which would require a zoning permit. That would also require coordination with NCDOT because they are, the access is coming off an NCDOT road. So therefore, that's where then NCDOT's driveway access regulations regarding that would come into play.
But didn't we have one?
We did, but we do not, we don't have any, correct.
I got it, okay. All right, so basically this is just us intent to abandon the roads and then the whole gate thing comes up at a later date.
Correct.
All right. Were we good giving the roads to them?
Well, you're, like I said,
As long as anything that we may have invested would get reimbursed, I think, you know.
correct.
Okay, so we have the public hearing to then make these decisions.
Correct. Like the public, all like I said, you're not, all this
We're not
is
doing it now, we're just doing that resolution of intent and then having the public.
saying that you
hearing.
guys are intending to close the roads essentially, yes.
Is the public hearing date,
Should be Monday, November 10th. Because we have the council meeting is moved on the 10th because the 11th is Veterans Day.
yeah, because the date's not on here, so, okay, that's fine. All right. What? It's in the what? Oh, it's not in the motion, though.
Didn't need it in the motion?
I know, but I wanted to announce it in the, usually when we schedule a public hearing, don't we announce the date?
This is scheduling it for a formal resolution. You don't do that often. You do it through like annexations. It's different when it's not a resolution.
Okay, can I just add the date to it when I say it so people know when it is? Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to adopt the resolution of intent to abandon, how about just to abandon, let's take out the ED, the roads in the Winmore subdivision, and fixing date of public hearing on question of right-of-way abandonment pursuant to NCGS 160A-299 as presented on November 10th.
Further discussion?
At what time?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. What time's our meetings? 6?
6.
6 p.m.
Further discussion? I have one question, and this just came to me. So they're in the process of doing this, and let's say one of the homes gets sold. What happens? Do they have just to get their signature for that, for the?
This is, I'm going to probably try to answer this in a yes and no form. My understanding is, so this is what did take them for a while, is that when they initially, like I said, had this conversation starting 3 years ago, 2 of the homes then sold. One of the new property owners was holding out. However, they were able to obtain their signatures for this. And if that happens, I don't think there's any property for sale there, but that is then up to you guys, I think, at that moment during the public hearing to make that determination. My guess is that I'm not a real estate person, but my guess is potentially if a home is for sale, at least this would be disclosed to any potential buyer. And so therefore, if they have an issue with it, then that could obviously lead to them either not purchasing it or bringing that question up prior to them closing on it.
All right, so motion is on the table. No more discussion. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. Abandoned. Open topics. Any open topics? Nope. I just want to point out one and just make a note for those that we did send, I sent a letter to the United Group, and I believe John, and thank you, John, for trying to organize this event on September 30th. I guess we couldn't come to a conclusion on how this format was going to be. The other side wanted just a meet and greet, and we were, like we've done always in the past for the last number of years, had a questions and answers, and we were told that they had no interest in doing questions and answers. So that being said, I believe Wayne took the initiative to rent out the barn for that evening, since we had that evening scheduled, and put that in his name. So we will move forward. They are welcome to participate, is what I said in the email I sent them this morning. They're welcome to participate. Meet and greet really doesn't do us. The community has multiple opportunities through Coffee with Council and coming here before us to do the meet and greets. So there's no benefit. I think the people really want to know answers to questions or comments that have been made, and that's why that was the whole gist of this. And I think they initially agreed to it. Now, for whatever reason, they're backing out. But we are moving forward with Wayne renting the barn, which means we will be responsible for the security there between us. And if they want to participate, they're welcome to do that. So that's the only announcement I had to make for upcoming events. So, and if nothing else, we'll go right into.
I'll just add something.
Okay.
This Saturday, we're having the shred thing in front of Cole's restaurant store. So anyone has papers that they want destroyed, come over and see us between 9 and 11.
Shredding, huh? All right. Moving on, we're going to go into review of action items.
All right, going back through, we've tabled the GTSP items for a future meeting. We're going to move forward with the repairs for the curb and gutter and sidewalks. We'll have a budget amendment for that at probably the next meeting. We're going to execute the contract with Kimley Horn for the comprehensive plan and Parks and Greenway master plan update. Scrolling back through. I'm going to send you guys calendar invites for the Coffee with Council events. I'm going to check with Bob and Andy about their availability for Council with Kids. And I think that's about it. So we're going to move forward with the barn repair quotes. And And we're gonna move forward with the barn repairs and also check the bathroom, shelter, and maintenance shops for weather damage. And Hunter's gonna tell the developer at Broadmoor that we're not gonna cost share for the trees, and that we're open to granting a temporary construction easement with Marvin Grove. Christina will inform the Preserve HOA and the resident about the issues we discussed with the Preserve.
No, I'm not. I told them that I'd already done that.
Oh,
and
yeah,
John
sorry.
said-
That's all I got.
Okay, any other comments? Council comments?
No,
Nope.
Oh, wait, sorry, I don't know how I skip over that.
I
all
don't
the
know how you do
time.
either.
Here, a review of the mayor pro tem list.
Thank you. All right, stormwater studies? That's supposed to be today.
Yeah, we've got it. I just haven't had a chance to review
Okay,
it, so I
let's
haven't.
push that to the October work session.
That will be your last work session for the year.
Okay,
Just letting you know.
thank you. Emergency exit? October work session?
We're working on that, working on the engineers being able to complete their study before the end of the year, so we're
Okay.
working through those details.
All right, so let's push that to January, because you just said end of the year, so let's push that to January. So I'm, Mr. Mayor, I'm understanding that Waxhaw is not really interested in doing anything at that sports complex, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I have not spoken about that.
Can you follow up with him?
Sure.
Okay,
They've also just got a new manager. I just had a conversation with him this past week, if you want me to reach out to him.
I would think that, given the timing of things, that it would be interesting to see if the
That's true.
incoming new
okay.
body may be
So
interested.
let's put that for December.
Moving that okay.
Yep.
You guys don't normally put much on that meeting.
Huh?
You guys don't normally put much on your December meeting.
Okay, put it in January then. Christine, the abandonment process for Stacy Howie?
We're working through on that. We've finally got some traction, and we should have some updates soon.
Okay, so let's put that on the October work session. Okay. Yoga services, contract was executed?
Yes. We're just waiting on her, she's coming by in person to sign off on it. So it's not finished yet.
All right, so not finished, so just leave it on there. Overgrown Marvin signs.
Yes, DOT is going to be coming out. It's on their list. Can't tell you exactly when, but it's on their list.
Yeah, it's really bad. Okay, did you begin negotiations with Kimley Horn on the comprehensive plan?
Yes.
That we just approved today?
Yes.
Okay, check that off the list. You began negotiations with Bowman?
Yes.
Check that off the list. Do you execute the contract with Ainsley Construction?
No, we're still working on that. We're working on, we have to have an AIA contract, which is a 100-page contract, so we're working on that now.
Oh, that sounds fun, okay. Thermoplast at Marvin Evern Park and Tom Short?
It's been done.
Check that off the list. Public Works will address the errors, and yep, that's done. And you're going to invite Mr. Payne to speak at the October 30th work session?
Yes, Gardner, yes.
Okay.
Well, he's already, I think he contacted, did he
I
contact
have
you?
I have not met this person.
All right, I'll make sure he knows to, I thought you would contact him and say, we'll put you on the agenda for October, so.
Austin, he's talking to you.
He's not, I've not heard from this person. I don't know who they are.
Okay,
Okay, so, and just to confirm the.
October 30th.
October 30th.
That's the day before your favorite holiday.
It is.
All right.
Just bought all the candy for my 120 kids that come by. Oh, yeah, you get good candy bars at my house.
I'll be there. All right, I'm done.
All right, I want to go back and
I'm
just do
finished,
a
sorry.
quick thing on open topics. I'm assuming, since Andy's not here, there is a WUMA meeting today in Stallings, And it's going to be hard pressed to make that. That's installing from 4 to 5:30. There's nothing on the agenda, but if there's someone that could make that, that would be appreciated. Otherwise, I'll just let them know that we won't be represented this week or this month unless someone is able. It is today. It's at 4 to 5:30 it usually goes, so. Okay. I'll send them a note that, or I'll check with, confirm with Andy that he and I haven't discussed that, so. All right, that's it. Council comments. Who wants to go first? I don't want to pick anyone.
You do.
Me?
Yeah. Okay, start with somebody else then.
John.
I'm good, thank you.
Wayne.
I'm good.
Jamie.
Just want to thank the staff again for all you do to implement all the things that we kind of, that we push out. Council, thank you to all council members for in the world in which we live, where people can throw stones from a keyboard without pertinent information or knowing what they're actually saying. It's evidence because I think we've had one person look at Jill's spreadsheet. Thank you for making the hard decisions and the real life decisions and decisions that we're held accountable for. And for those in any elected position or that have never been elected to a position, you're never held accountable to make comments and make accusations at someone. You're never held accountable, so it's an easy way to do it. But when you do sit here, you have to make hard decisions, and you are held accountable, and you have to defend those decisions that are made. And unfortunately, we can no longer we can't defend them on next door because we are one voice, not individual voices. Our individual voices are made here during our government council meetings. But thank you, council, for making the hard decisions. I know that there are a lot of people out there that want to throw stones, and they think they know until they don't. But each one of us up here have been accused of one thing or another, or this council as a whole has been accused of doing things from people that have not looked at it in totality and looked at the information and pieced it together, i.e. with Jill's spreadsheet, which is very informative, and someone's going to have to make real-life decisions and accountable decisions somewhere down the road. So thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Sheriff's Department, for all you do to keep us safe as well. Thank you.
Ditto to what Jamie said. That was great. I agree.
Okay, well, I want to follow up on what Jamie said. We've tried for years to get the best information. It started with there were people involved who claimed they were the voice of Marvin, and you had to respond to them in questionnaires. This council has gotten to the point where we put out a question and answer for candidates and how they feel about that. And I do want to thank every candidate who is running, because it is putting yourself out there for sure. But to step back a second, I do want to thank staff for the excellent stuff that you guys took the time to prepare for us. But going forward, I guess I was recently given a stack of papers of comments that were made on Nextdoor, and I think you know that I'm not on any social media. And I was, quite frankly, appalled at some of the comments, irresponsible comments that are being made. And the only way you can, I guess, learn more about where they're coming from with these comments is to ask questions. That's what we've always had, and we've invited them to do that. And for whatever reason, they, through emails and through John, and John, thank you for trying to put this together for the September 30th meeting. They don't want to answer questions. They don't want to stand up there before, answer questions. And I mean, we even proposed a Q&A and then a meet and greet after if you wanted to follow up on some questions. It was a no to that. So And that's fine if that's how they're going to do, but I can't imagine them accepting a position or being voted in and not think they're going to have to answer any questions, or to Jamie's point, be accountable. It's easy to say things, and what was alarming to me is only one person took the time to do a deeper dive into our budget and what's going on and what's going to be happening shortly. So I, again, encourage you not to get your information from next door, but to more importantly, take the time, take a few minutes and just ask some questions. And it doesn't even have to be, I'd encourage you even to ask staff. And I know that puts another burden on you guys with all the things that you receive, emails and that type of thing. But they're an independent voice, and they're doing the work that we're directing them to do. So, but anyway, I just want to thank again everyone who is taking the time to run, and appreciate all that our staff is doing, and also our Sheriff's Department as well. And with that, I'll need a motion to adjourn. All's in favor?
45.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Christina, is this for like, did you just have this conversation? Oh, okay. And there's no answer? Yeah. What's the answer?
I just ended it right now.